A crimson-stained hand reached out towards an armored one, but before any connection could be made, a colossal, monstrous foot came crashing down. The once bustling Dragon City now lay in ruins, overrun by a horde of merciless creatures slaughtering humans. Amidst the chaos, one lone figure valiantly fought against the tide of monsters, though already grievously wounded and facing insurmountable odds. Despite the futility of his struggle, he pressed on, slicing through the advancing horde with determination. Suddenly, a hulking rocky beast seized him from behind, causing him to spurt blood as he was hurled violently to the ground, the impact sending debris flying. Though battered and barely standing, he refused to yield. However, his resolve wavered as he felt tendrils of darkness writhing within a fallen monster, lashing out and piercing his flesh from all directions. As he was lifted into the air, his consciousness fading, he whispered desperate words to his parents, lamenting his inability to save the city. With a heavy heart, he watched as meteors rained down upon the once vibrant streets, bringing about the total annihilation of Dragon City. On the other side of the spectrum, a teacher stood before his class, demanding their attention. Despite his persistent calls for them to focus, one student remained asleep at the back. Growing increasingly frustrated, the teacher scolded the class, emphasizing the importance of observing him to learn about the monsters they were discussing. As laughter erupted amongst the students, aggravating the teacher further, the slumbering student suddenly jolted awake with a scream. His name was Meng Chao, and he found himself bewildered as his classmate teased him for his sleeping antics. As he surveyed his surroundings, he questioned whether he had somehow cheated death, confronted with the realization that he had returned to his third year of school, with the national college exam looming just 50 days away. Overwhelmed by the weight of this realization, Meng Chao sank into despair, dreading the impending exam more than death itself. Caught in the teacher's glare, he recognized Teacher Yan and blurted out a question about his mortality before hastily retracting his words, claiming to still be among the living. Silence fell over the classroom, every eye fixed on Meng Chao, their former top student. One student offered him a supportive gesture, anticipating a grand funeral for him. Meanwhile, steam practically emanated from Teacher Yan's ears as he demanded an explanation from Meng Chao. Realizing the trouble he was in, Meng Chao's mind raced. With an apologetic bow so deep it sent his chair tumbling, he pleaded with Teacher Yan, attributing his behavior to a mere nightmare, though his tone betrayed uncertainty. Meng Chao recounted his dream of relentless alien invaders breaching Dragon City, resulting in the destruction of the ancient homeland. Startled awake, he shared with Teacher Yan that in the dream, it was the teacher who displayed remarkable bravery, esteemed by all as a martyr. However, Teacher Yan's sinister gaze persisted as he echoed Meng Chao's words about the city's downfall and his own demise in the dream. Clenching his fists tightly, Teacher Yan exerted such force that even the skull of the monster he held began to crumble. Recalling the dream where Teacher Yan met his demise, Meng Chao attempted to reassure him, claiming it was a painless and peaceful death, though internally, he couldn't shake the image of Teacher Yan being torn apart in seconds. Despite Meng Chao's attempt to soothe his worries, Teacher Yan dismissed Meng Chao's depiction of Dragon City's fate as absurd, shattering the monster's skull in his hand. Commanding Meng Chao to stand against the wall with a specific posture, Teacher Yan's stern glare silenced Meng Chao's question about the peculiar instruction. Undeterred, Teacher Yan probed Meng Chao about Dragon City's fate in a hypothetical scenario where it perished 50 years ago amidst plagues and zombie rampages. Reflecting on the sacrifices made by countless martyrs to reclaim territory from monsters, Teacher Yan pressed Meng Chao, questioning if humans submitted to the creatures and if Dragon City met its demise. Maintaining composure, Meng Chao asserted that humans never surrendered, and Dragon City remained intact. Teacher Yan envisioned a future where the fog dissipated, allowing their steel army to advance, spreading Earth's culture to the other world, thus concluding that Dragon City's destruction was implausible given its current state. Teacher Yan reminisced about Meng Chao's description of the monsters as goddamn savages, but he countered, asserting that Earthlings were the true ruthless beings in that world. One student enthusiastically agreed with Teacher Yan, echoing the sentiment that their planet was the most brutal, and others joined in, expressing their determination to eventually dominate the other world. However, another student stood up, acknowledging Teacher Yan's words and advocating for diligent study and rigorous training to become superhumans who could contribute to Dragon City's ascent. He urged his peers not to fear enemies but to confront them like fearsome tigers and to dismiss thoughts of Dragon City's destruction. Glancing at Meng Chao, he subtly implied that only a few were cowardly, leaving Meng Chao to wonder if he was referring to him. The student raised his arms confidently, declaring that the majority of the class shared the belief in Dragon City and Earth's inevitable triumph. In unison, the entire class joined in chanting their support, save for the one with pink hair. Among the girls, most cheered enthusiastically for their class representative, admiring his handsome appearance. However, amidst the admiration, one student remarked on Meng Chao's recent decline, noting his frequent sleeping in class. Another student sympathetically explained that Meng Chao's cultivation had gone awry, resulting in severe injuries and his subsequent fall from the top of the class to the bottom. Another student chimed in, reasoning that Meng Chao shouldn't wish ill upon Dragon City. Meanwhile, Meng Chao couldn't shake the suspicion that the class representative was intentionally causing trouble, possibly holding a grudge against him, although he acknowledged their mutual animosity. As Meng Chao recalled past grievances, he mentioned missing the college entrance examination due to injuries inflicted by the class representative. However, when Dragon City faced a formidable adversary and entered a difficult war, the class representative fled from the battlefield, pleading with the monsters for mercy and offering to divulge any information in exchange for his safety. Meng's expression turned stern as he stepped forward, his eyes flashing with intensity. With a chilling demeanor, Meng Chao addressed the class representative. The class representative couldn't help but notice the eerie change in Meng Chao's eyes, which seemed vastly different from before. However, Meng Chao responded with a sinister smile, bowing respectfully and agreeing with the class representative's admonition. He expressed gratitude to Teacher Yan and the class representative for highlighting his shortcomings, vowing to stand firm in his convictions and train diligently to contribute to Dragon City's ascendancy in the other world. With a deep bow, Meng Chao pledged his full commitment to the cause. Teacher Yan nodded in approval at Meng Chao's words, advising him to learn from Zhuhaoren, the class representative. He instructed Meng Chao to go to the back of the class and assume the dragon hibernation stance until the end of the lesson. Without a word of protest, Meng Chao accepted Teacher Yan's directive. The student with pink hair looked on in horror, realizing that Meng Chao hadn't been practicing the 9 great stances recently. If he endured the dragon hibernation stance for half an hour, he might end up crawling home after school. Meanwhile, Meng Chao scratched his head, admitting that the dragon hibernation stance was a basic, outdated posture from his nightmare, and he had forgotten its exact form. His classmates overheard and began to ridicule him. One remarked sarcastically that they had thought Teacher Yan was tough, but now they believed the punishment was too lenient. Another classmate chimed in, praising Meng Chao's acting skills, suggesting they would soon find out who would emerge victorious. However, another student urged Meng Chao to drop the act and plead for mercy instead. Zhuhaoren smirked, asserting that Meng Chao deserved his punishment as he was simply a troublemaker in the class. Unexpectedly, Meng Chao's grin widened. Adjusting his stance, he executed the dragon hibernation posture flawlessly, stunning everyone in the room. Even Teacher Yan and the classmates who had mocked Meng earlier were taken aback by the excellence of his performance, surpassing even Zhuhaoren's. One classmate was so shocked that he coughed up blood, insisting that what he was witnessing had to be an illusion, believing that Meng Chao's attempt to appear cool would quickly falter under such strain. Meanwhile, he took the opportunity to apologize to Teacher Yan, acknowledging that he hadn't practiced the dragon hibernation stance recently, resulting in imperfect movements. He assured Teacher Yan that he would rectify this upon his return and requested forgiveness for his shortcomings. However, Teacher Yan remained silent on the matter, swiftly redirecting the class back to the lecture. Zhuhaoren appeared unfazed outwardly, but internally, he seethed with anger, crushing his pen in frustration at being embarrassed by Meng Chao. Determined to make Meng Chao regret his actions, he plotted his retaliation. As Meng Chao continued in his pose, his eyes gleamed with intrigue as something caught his attention. As Meng Chao's eyes continued to sparkle with curiosity, he observed something unusual. He appeared to be gazing at a system screen before him. Suddenly, a notification appeared, indicating that the kindling had been successfully bound and the host's identity confirmed as Meng Chao, the fire relayer. Meng Chao's memory jogged back to his nightmare, recalling how a peculiar flame had surged from the heart of Dragon City and entered his body. Now, he could vividly visualize the flame within his mind's eye. Abruptly, the system congratulated Meng Chao on becoming the fire relayer of the civilization, expressing hope that he would diligently pass on the flames of civilization. Furthermore, it informed him of an initial contribution point reward of 10,000 and asked if he wished to distribute these points to enhance himself, considering his old internal injuries and lack of proficiency in basic skills. Meng Chao expressed satisfaction with the progress of his healing, marveling at how his previously incurable internal injuries had now been resolved. Sensing the reconnection of torn muscles and tendons, he found the process fascinating as the percentage of his healing steadily increased. Urging the system not to cease its efforts, Meng Chao was delighted to discover that the contribution points had been exchanged for various techniques. This exchange led to the restoration of memories from his past life, revealing his former strength. However, Meng Chao's joy turned to confusion when the system abruptly halted its actions. Angrily questioning the system's pause, Meng Chao demanded it to resume its operations, only to be met with a notification informing him that he now possessed only 3 contribution points, which were insufficient for further exchanges. Bewildered by the rapid depletion of his initial 10,000 contribution points, Meng Chao sought an explanation for their unexpected expenditure. Meng Chao trembled with anticipation as he pleaded with the system to elevate him to master level, offering a signed document as a gesture of indebtedness. However, the system firmly declined, emphasizing the necessity for the flames of civilization to continuously thrive, thus urging Meng Chao to contribute swiftly in order to unlock more skills and missions. Perplexed by how to earn contribution points, Meng Chao pondered his next steps. Moments later, the bell rang, drawing Teacher Yan's intense gaze towards Meng Chao. Hastily gathering his belongings, Teacher Yan announced the class's dismissal. His 3 classmates marveled at his ability to maintain the stance, suggesting its benefits for refining vitality. They speculated that Meng Chao, the former top student, was making a comeback. Meanwhile, Meng Chao's eyes grew heavy with weariness as he voiced his hunger and blurred vision. Feeling as though his stomach was melting, he contemplated whether the fire consumed his energy to repair his body and awaken his skills, concluding that he needed to replenish it himself. Suddenly, a towering figure lunged toward Meng Chao. It was Chu Fei-xiong, his best friend with the distinctive pink hair. Excitedly, Chu Fei-xiong punched Meng Chao's shoulders, prompting Meng Chao to curse as he shook him, questioning how Meng Chao had managed to master the dragon hibernation stance behind his back. Ignoring Chu Fei-xiong's inquiry, Meng Chao instead mentioned that he had forgotten his money that day, suggesting Chu Fei-xiong treat him to a meal at the tuck shop. In return, Meng Chao promised to treat him to 2 meals the following days. Skeptical, Chu Fei-xiong pushed Meng Chao away, suspecting a trick, as Meng Chao had never been so generous before. Confidently, Meng Chao smiled and reminded Chu Fei-xiong that they were half-brothers, implying that he wouldn't deceive him. Flustered, Chu Fei-xiong looked at Meng Chao intently, then playfully wrapped his arms around him, teasing that if the whole class heard about their brotherly bond, Meng Chao wouldn't dare to deny it. Later, at a food truck, someone was devouring food voraciously, surrounded by empty containers. It was Meng Chao, happily munching away. Suddenly, a large figure loomed beside him, scolding him for consuming 2 weeks' worth of living expenses in one go and challenging him to a fight. Startled, Meng Chao's eyes lit up as he realized it was Chu Fei-xiong. Without hesitation, Meng Chao swiftly slapped him with the back of his hand, urging him not to cause a scene. After colliding with a tree, Chu Fei-xiong expressed pain, tears streaming down his face, yet he denied the reality of the situation, attributing it to an illusion. With skepticism still lingering, he dashed away, declaring his intent to attend class. Meanwhile, as Meng Chao strolled along, he accidentally kicked an empty bottle, causing it to roll towards a trash bag surrounded by more refuse. Nearby, someone was diligently cleaning up the area, but their efforts were frustrated by the spillage of trash. Observing the scene, Meng Chao offered his assistance and promptly disposed of the bottle in the trash. In response, the system notified him of an increase in his contribution points by 0.01 for aiding others and an additional 0.001 for environmental conservation. Meng Chao was taken aback by how easily he had earned contribution points. A few moments later, as Meng Chao approached the staircase where Chu Fei-xiong awaited him, he was suddenly captivated by the passing girls, their elegance and beauty momentarily distracting him. Chu Fei-xiong, noticing Meng Chao's fixation, couldn't resist a playful knock on the head, questioning his behavior. In response, Meng Chao attempted to explain the profound realization that had dawned on him, the newfound appreciation for the ordinary moments of their lives and the importance of safeguarding them. Chu Fei-xiong, blushing slightly, followed Meng Chao's gaze and couldn't help but admire his friend's unabashed honesty and willingness to embrace life's simple pleasures without reservation. Chu Feixiong's tone shifted to seriousness as he urged Meng Chao to stop looking. He questioned whether Meng Chao truly believed he had killed Teacher Yan in his dream and witnessed the destruction of Dragon City. Chu Feixiong's cheeks flushed with embarrassment as he shamelessly drooled while inquiring about himself. He wondered aloud if he had ascended to the rank of a great general and fought bravely until his final moments. Meng Chao, angered by Chu Feixiong's insinuations, demanded clarification regarding the accusation of Teacher Yan's murder. He swiftly corrected him, explaining that he had merely seen fragmented scenes. With anticipation, Chu Feixiong looked expectantly at Meng Chao, eager to hear his story. Meanwhile, Meng Chao was plagued with sweat and worry, debating whether to confess to Chu Feixiong that he had served as nothing more than a frontline fighter. Additionally, he grappled with the decision of whether to inform Chu Feixiong about the impending escalation of the monster war, with increasingly ferocious creatures emerging. As Meng Chao pondered their fate being sealed within the confines of Newbie Village, a somber expression shadowed his face, memories of his parents flooding back. Turning to Chu Feixiong, Meng Chao reminisced about their past dreams, his own of earning an undergraduate degree and reaching superhuman heights, juxtaposed with Chu Feixiong's desire to attend military school and become a general. Chu Feixiong remarked that they had discussed these dreams just the day before. Dismissing the nostalgia, Meng Chao emphasized the importance of actualizing their aspirations. Encouragingly, Chu Feixiong suggested that Meng Chao focus on his undergraduate studies in the remaining 50 days, promising his full support. With a fist bump, they energized each other, ready to pursue their dreams with determination. Unbeknownst to Chu Feixiong, Meng Chao was grappling with inner turmoil, feeling terrible about their circumstances. Despite this, Meng Chao resolved to help Chu Feixiong, knowing the misery he had endured in his past life. With determination, Chu Feixiong raised his fist and declared his intention to attend military school and become a general. Inspired by his friend's determination, Meng Chao followed suit, declaring his goal to attend college and become a superhuman. In the classroom of third-year Class 6, students filed in, relieved that it was finally a language class. One girl bubbled with excitement, eager to memorize the Ballad of Mulan and the Lotus Pond Moonlight poem. Beside her, another girl searched for Teacher Huang, longing for her presence. As someone approached the room, and they opened the door of the classroom, the students wore smiles of anticipation, expecting Teacher Huang's arrival. However, it was Swahaoran who entered the classroom, announcing that Teacher Huang was unwell that day. He instructed everyone to line up and follow him to the cultivation room. Disappointment spread among the students as they learned of Teacher Huang's absence yet again, voicing their desire for her presence in their language class. As the class followed Swahaoran down the hallway, Chu Feixiong remarked to Meng Chao that he had heard Earth children their age typically attended around 20 language classes per week, reflecting on their fortunate circumstances. Meng Chao reassured him, suggesting they could still enjoy reading poems and books as a break from their cultivation routines. Swahaoran glanced back and noticed Chu Feixiong and Meng Chao engrossed in conversation. Deciding to step aside, he urged everyone to move quickly. Annoyed, Chu Feixiong muttered to Meng Chao about his irritation with Swahaoran's airs. He then whispered to Meng Chao, gossiping that Swahaoran had met the requirements to join the rocket class long ago but opted to remain in a regular class to serve as their class representative. Intrigued, Meng Chao asked for the reason behind this decision. Chu Feixiong explained that it all boiled down to the training resources that the school provided to class representatives. Chu Feixiong remarked that Swahaoran's family owned a large company and had a connection with a teaching director, yet Swahaoran still competed with them, the less privileged kids, for resources. Meng Chao agreed, adding that if it weren't for Swahaoran's uncle's influence in the regular class, Chu Feixiong would have been the class representative. Just as Meng Chao was about to elaborate on the issue of resources, Swahaoran turned and glanced at them. Suddenly, Swahaoran erupted, loudly questioning why there was such a ruckus at the back, accusing them of wasting everyone's time. Chu Feixiong felt triggered because although Swahaoran didn't mention any names, it was clear he was referring to them. Chu Feixiong's anger flared, and he was on the verge of rushing forward to confront Swahaoran, ready to deliver a scathing retort. However, Meng Chao remained composed, intervening to stop Chu Feixiong. He suggested they focus on practicing cultivation first and deal with Swahaoran at a later time. Reluctantly, Chu-Fei Xiong heeded Meng Chao's advice, though he still seethed with anger, shooting daggers at Zhuhaoren. Meanwhile, Meng Chao maintained a steady gaze on Zhuhaoren. Moments later, their class arrived at the Cultivation Center. Inside, they found a boxing ring and gym equipment scattered about. Zhuhaoren announced that it was a self-study class, instructing everyone to choose a suitable training regimen to practice. Zhuhaoren emphasized that slacking off was not permitted. In response, Meng Chao positioned himself in front of the training equipment, inwardly resolving to dedicate himself to rigorous training from that moment onward. With determination, he delivered a punch, but to his dismay, the force behind it was minimal, barely making a sound upon impact. Realizing his body still lacked vitality, Meng Chao attributed this to the energy expended by the internal fire to heal his wounds. Placing his face against the training equipment, Meng Chao contemplated how the fire had aided in his recovery and potential skill awakening, yet he remained physically weak, akin to a tank without fuel. He recognized the need for extensive cultivation resources to replenish his depleted energy stores. As Meng Chao slid down the training equipment in exhaustion, the girls observed, expressing regret that such potential lay dormant within him. Zhuhaoren, who was vigorously training with weights, observed Meng Chao's struggle and admonished him, stating that if he wished to train, he should do so seriously or leave the equipment for more dedicated students. Feeling disheartened, Meng Chao walked away from the equipment, completely deflated. Chu-Fei Xiong, noticing Meng Chao's state, suggested he take a rest to recuperate, but Meng Chao declined, insisting he was fine. As Chu-Fei Xiong began training on the punching sandbag, he remarked to Meng Chao about the importance of not forgetting the basics, noting that it had been a while since they last trained seriously together. Meng Chao remained silent, his gaze fixed on Chu-Fei Xiong with a hollow expression. Sensing his friend's distress, Chu-Fei Xiong questioned Meng Chao if he believed he wasn't training effectively. Meng Chao responded by advising Chu-Fei Xiong against exerting force in that manner. Irritated by Meng Chao's critique, Chu-Fei Xiong expressed frustration, feeling betrayed by Meng Chao's apparent indifference despite their close friendship. However, Meng Chao clarified that his comments weren't directed at Chu-Fei Xiong personally. Before he could elaborate further on their technique, Chu-Fei Xiong interjected, finishing Meng Chao's sentence, acknowledging that their current approach to force was indeed subpar. He accused Meng Chao of being shameless for his audacity that afternoon. Intrigued by an idea, Meng Chao invited Chu-Fei Xiong to accompany him to the restroom. A few moments later, inside the men's restroom, Meng Chao glanced around to ensure no one was nearby before closing the door. Confused, Chu-Fei Xiong questioned Meng Chao's actions. With a sinister grin, Meng Chao instructed Chu-Fei Xiong to remove his shirt so he could examine his muscles. Nervous and wary, Chu-Fei Xiong demanded to know what Meng Chao was up to, warning that he wouldn't hesitate to fight back if necessary. Seeing Meng Chao's fatigue, Chu-Fei Xiong relented, though still puzzled by his friend's behavior. Ignoring Chu-Fei Xiong's question, Meng Chao instead asked him if he ever felt as if his strength was on the verge of overflowing when he channeled reckless bull force, particularly below his ribs. Chu-Fei Xiong was taken aback by the unexpected inquiry. Meng Chao then crouched on the floor and asked Chu-Fei Xiong if he experienced a sharp pain from the soles of his feet to his knees whenever he stepped down. Chu-Fei Xiong was taken aback by Meng Chao's insights and questioned how he knew about his condition. Meng Chao explained that Chu-Fei Xiong hadn't fully grasped the essence of reckless bull force, resulting in half of its power dispersing throughout his body. Meng Chao warned that continuing to train blindly could lead to conditions like osteoporosis. Suddenly, Meng Chao was surprised when Chu-Fei Xiong grabbed his feet, pleading for assistance. Meng Chao instructed Chu-Fei Xiong to channel his force again to demonstrate. With renewed determination, Chu-Fei Xiong complied. Moments later, excitement erupted from the men's restroom as the two emerged. Chu-Fei Xiong's eyes gleamed with excitement as he shared with Meng Chao that he felt a significant increase in his ultimate punching power, estimating it to be at least 3%. After Meng Chao's realization of the significance of his actions, he urged Chu-Fei Xiong to return and test his newfound strength. As Chu-Fei Xiong complied, Meng Chao noticed a system notification promptly informed him that his contribution points had increased by 10 due to his guidance to Chu-Fei Xiong, which had bolstered the overall fighting prowess of Dragon City. Understanding the potential impact of teaching future martial arts to the citizens, Meng Chao recognized it as a contribution to the advancement of civilization. Envisioning a scenario where the citizens could become significantly stronger, perhaps even 100 times more powerful than in his previous nightmares, Meng Chao believed they would be capable of overcoming the extraordinary beings from other worlds. Realizing that the strength of Dragon City's cultivation directly correlated with his own empowerment, Meng Chao grasped the true meaning of contribution points. The stronger the cultivation of the citizens, the stronger he would become as well. Suddenly, the system prompted Meng Chao to select his reward for his inaugural contribution. He faced a choice: upgrading the Reckless Bull Force for 756 contribution points, awakening the basic gun skill for 3,100 contribution points, or activating the Ripple Force for 1,500 contribution points. Contemplating his decision, Meng Chao deliberated momentarily before decisively clicking on the system screen. He opted for the basic gun skill, grinning shamelessly as he remarked that since it was free, naturally he would choose the most expensive option without hesitation. With a sinister smile, Meng Chao assured Chu Fei-xiong not to fret, promising to ensure his entry into military school. Chu Fei-xiong couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling caused by Meng Chao's smile. Moments later, they found themselves standing in front of a machine. Curious, Chu Fei-xiong asked Meng Chao where he had learned that peculiar technique. Meng Chao brushed off the question, suggesting they discuss it later, and proposed they first test Chu Fei-xiong's maximum punching strength. Eagerly, Chu Fei-xiong agreed and focused, channeling his aura as he prepared to unleash a powerful punch. However, their moment was interrupted by someone shouting at them to stop. It was Swahawaran, demanding to know who permitted them to use the punching force gauge. He informed Chu Fei-xiong that he and Meng Chao had slipped out of class shortly after it began and only returned around 20 minutes later. He immediately wanted to test his punching strength. Swahawaran questioned Chu Fei-xiong about whether he had obtained permission for using the machine. Annoyed by the interference, Chu Fei-xiong retorted, asking Swahawaran if he genuinely believed himself to be a teacher. He asserted that he had just experienced a breakthrough with the Reckless Bull Force technique and questioned why Swahawaran felt the need to intervene when not even Teacher Yan would stop him. Swahawaran smirked in response, pointing out that Chu Fei-xiong's stance was crooked and far from the standard Reckless Bull Force technique. He doubted the validity of Chu Fei-xiong's claimed breakthrough if he couldn't even execute a powerful punch correctly. Swahawaran advised Chu Fei-xiong to step aside and focus on mastering the Reckless Bull Force technique before attempting to use the punching force gauge. Chu Fei-xiong, already seething with anger, was on the verge of charging at Swahawaran, demanding to know if there was a problem with his Reckless Bull Force technique. However, Meng Chao intervened, stepping in to halt Chu Fei-xiong's impulsive reaction. He suggested to Swahawaran that if what he claimed was true, perhaps he could demonstrate the standard Reckless Bull Force technique so they could all learn it earnestly. Meng Chao emphasized the importance of diligent study for all of them. Swahawaran, feeling smug, removed his watch and confidently declared that he would show them the real Reckless Bull Force. Stepping forward, he delivered a powerful punch into the punching force gauge, causing it to move slightly backward. The gauge displayed a force of 225 kilograms, setting a new class record. A girl from the class remarked that achieving such a feat had taken Swahawaran a long time in the past, but this time it seemed effortless. Another girl noted Swahawaran's rapid improvement over the past 2 months, expressing confidence in his ability to secure admission to a prestigious college. Yet another chimed in, pointing out that despite being smaller than Chu Fei-xiong, Swahawaran's punching power exceeded his by 5 kilograms. Swahawaran, exuding confidence, challenged Chu Fei-xiong and Meng Chao to acknowledge what they had witnessed. Sensing tension, a classmate attempted to defuse the situation, urging Chu Fei-xiong to let it go and suggesting they test later. The classmate also tried to enlist Meng Chao's help in persuading Chu Fei-xiong. However, instead of intervening to stop Chu Fei-xiong, Meng Chao simply patted him on the back, indicating that he trusted Chu Fei-xiong to handle it. Seething with anger, Chu Fei-xiong clenched his teeth, determined to press forward. Swahawaran stood guard over the punching force gauge, instructing Chu Fei-xiong to return to testing with the others before class. Undeterred, Chu Fei-xiong persisted, attempting to move past Swahawaran. When Swahawaran continued to block his path, Chu Fei-xiong demanded that he step aside. Ignoring the command, Swahawaran persisted in obstructing Chu Fei-xiong's way. The other classmate who was persuading Chu Fei-xiong earlier couldn't believe it and he said that it was over for Chu Fei-xiong. Meanwhile, Chu Fei-xiong, fueled by fury, acted like a raging bear, seizing Swahawaran's arm and forcibly moving him aside. Swahawaran, caught off guard by Chu Fei-xiong's newfound strength, tumbled to the ground in surprise. Undeterred, Chu Fei-xiong continued to advance with relentless determination, channeling all his strength into his fist. As Chu Fei-xiong unleashed his punch into the punching force gauge, Swahoran was stunned by the raw power behind it. The force of Chu Fei-xiong's blow was so immense that it lifted the gauge off the ground, leaving everyone in awe of his strength. Chu Fei-xiong's punch exerted such incredible force that the gauge shifted slightly, the numbers steadily climbing. A classmate quickly pointed out that Chu Fei-xiong had surpassed the class representative's record, setting a new class benchmark. Bewildered by the sudden achievement, Chu Fei-xiong stared at his fists in disbelief. Without delay, Meng Chao accused Chu Fei-xiong of betrayal, condemning him for concealing his practice of the immensely powerful super reckless bull force, which had even surpassed the class rep's achievements. The girls in their class were intrigued by this revelation, expressing their curiosity aloud. Meng Chao, contemplating aloud, explained that the instructors for the reckless bull force were prohibitively expensive to hire, given that each additional 10 kilograms lifted was worth a tenth of a point in the entrance exam, a fact that astonished the girls with its implications of power and prestige. Chu Fei-xiong was taken aback and bewildered when Meng Chao addressed him as Big Brother and requested to learn the super reckless bull force, a technique Chu Fei-xiong had previously shown him in the restroom. Meng Chao urged him not to hastily reject the request, offering to compensate him with cultivation resources for the tuition and assuring him that he wouldn't suffer any losses. Realizing Meng Chao's profit motive, Chu Fei-xiong felt compelled to assist him, touched by Meng's tearful plea. With tears welling in his eyes, others in the group also begged Chu Fei-xiong to save the children, emphasizing their shared plight. Meng Chao suggested forming a study group, reasoning that since Chu Fei-xiong was already teaching him, extending the lessons to others wouldn't be much different. He proposed that each member contribute cultivation resources as compensation to Chu Fei-xiong, allowing him to further refine his skills. As everyone in the class eagerly expressed their interest, except for Swahoran, who remained seated on the ground, glaring at them, the system notified Meng Chao of an increase in his contribution points by 11. It credited his suggestion for promoting harmony in the class and enhancing the students' motivation to study, potentially leading to improved results and greater contributions to civilization. With a smirk, Meng Chao commended Chu Fei-xiong for his selfless care for his classmates. He cunningly praised Chu Fei-xiong's strength and questioned why the teacher hadn't chosen him as the class representative initially. All eyes turned to Swahoran after Meng Chao's remark, further fueling his anger. Attempting to diffuse the tension, Meng Chao extended his hand to help Swahoran up, dismissing his comment as mere banter and urging him not to take it personally. However, Swahoran seethed with anger, viewing Meng Chao's actions as despicable and disgusting. Swahoran stood up, refusing Meng Chao's hand, and rebutted his claim, stating that the class representative is the one who truly contributes to the community. Although he smiled outwardly, inwardly, Swahoran plotted to sabotage Meng Chao's chances of getting into college as the college entrance exam approached. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the bell signaling the end of classes rang, Chu Fei-xiong found himself on the rooftop with Meng Chao. He urged him to take everything, recognizing that he had wasted a year and needed the resources more than ever. Discussing the distribution of cultivation resources, Meng Chao proposed a split of 3-7, insisting that there would be no objections. After receiving his share, Chu Fei-xiong asked Meng where he had obtained the technique. In his mind, Meng Chao apologized to Chu Fei-xiong, unable to reveal the truth about the fire incident yet. Instead, he claimed to have found it on the Deep Web's underground life science forum, assuring Chu Fei-xiong that he had thoroughly evaluated the super reckless bull force, ensuring its safety. Meng Chao expressed his desire to contribute to society but emphasized that there was no need to rush it. He suggested to Chu Fei-xiong that if they were concerned about the risks, they should inform the others that the super reckless bull force was still in its testing stage, highlighting the possibility of encountering bugs. Chu Fei-xiong agreed to relay this message to the others before departing, reminding Meng Chao to head home early as well. Carrying his backpack brimming with cultivation resources, Meng Chao gazed down at the scene below with a sense of melancholy, his thoughts drifting to Dragon City. Reflecting on his past feelings towards the mists, Meng Chao remembered his disdain for its containment of Dragon City, which hindered expansion and brought about a sense of confinement. He also recalled disliking the city itself due to its crowded streets, dense buildings, and the overwhelming pressure to excel in cultivation. He reminisced about how, like many teenagers, he had been influenced by Earth culture, longing for the seemingly idyllic life depicted in books and movies. On Earth, students had minimal physical education but numerous academic lessons, While adults enjoyed shorter work hours, abundant wealth, spacious homes, and access to natural foods. Tears cascaded down Meng Chao's face as he contemplated Earth, a distant hometown they could never return to, and the looming nightmare of an uncertain future. In that moment, the city became their sole refuge. Suddenly, a fire erupted before him, prompting Meng Chao to realize that even though the spread was indirect, he could be considered a contributor. The system notified him of increasing contribution points as the reckless bull technique disseminated among ordinary citizens, bolstering the city's overall combat prowess. Meng Chao marveled at the satisfaction of contributing to society. His reverie was abruptly interrupted by a public service announcement summoning all citizens' attention. It warned of an impending fog and subsequent monster ambush that night. A colossal ship soared overhead as the announcement detailed predictions of monster concentrations, particularly near the northern steel factories. The Survival Committee had ordered the Steel Dragon organization to initiate Grade 1 war preparations, with other regions to follow suit at Grade 3. Citizens were urged to adhere to the law, remain vigilant, and prepare to defend against their adversaries. Terror gripped Meng Chao's heart as the public service announcement reassured everyone that they were the Earth's expeditionary force and Dragon City was assured victory. His eyes widened in shock at the news of the impending monster attack that night. As a bus awaited at the school's front gate, Meng Chao, filled with urgency, hurried towards it, urging others to make way. Despite his efforts, the bus began to move, prompting him to shout for it to wait. Ignoring the billowing black smoke, he chased after it, pleading for it to stop and let him on board. Meanwhile, Swaharan sat comfortably in his car, observing Meng Chao from his window, harboring contemptuous thoughts about their classmate. Upon finally boarding the bus, Meng Chao felt a wave of relief wash over him, believing he had made it in time. However, his relief was short-lived as the bus announced their arrival at the Tiger Forest region stop. Despite struggling to disembark due to the crowded bus, Meng Chao eventually managed to step off, feeling relieved once more as he was finally back home. As Meng Chao strolled through the bustling market, he was surrounded by the lively chatter of merchants peddling their wares, from fresh demonic halibut pork to newly developed jade fruit from the genetic farm. Despite the dilapidated surroundings, Meng Chao found solace in the warmth of his memories, smiling as he overheard a mother scolding her child for focusing too much on memorizing Tang and Song dynasty poems instead of cultivating. Amidst the lively atmosphere, a voice calling out brother caught Meng Chao's attention. It belonged to a girl struggling under the weight of a heavy bucket, pleading for assistance due to her exhaustion. Meng Chao smiled as he recognized her as Xiao Chao, but suddenly, his expression turned to one of horror. Terror filled his eyes as memories of the nightmare flooded back. In his vision, an evil figure resembling Xiao Chao stood before him, bringing with her an aura of eternal darkness. Meng Chao's heart raced as he grappled with the unsettling realization that wherever Xiao Chao went, darkness seemed to follow. In Meng Chao's vivid recollection, Xiao Chao appeared as a dark witch, gleefully stepping on his face and taunting him with laughter. Suddenly jolted back to reality, he found Xiao Chao's concerned face leaning over him, calling him brother. Startled by Xiao Chao's presence, Meng Chao felt a surge of distress, realizing she wasn't the younger sister he had expected. Taking hold of Xiao Chao's shoulder, Meng Chao anxiously questioned whether she would trample him if she gained great power. Xiao Chao, addressing him as her beloved brother, laughed off his concern, wondering why he would think she'd be so brutal. Yet, in her mind, she couldn't help but chuckle at Meng Chao's accurate guess. Indeed, if she became strong, stomping on him would be her first instinct, and she'd do it repeatedly. Recognizing Xiao Chao's transformation into a dark witch in his nightmare, Meng Chao couldn't shake the feeling that there must be a reason behind it. He hesitantly asked if there was something about him that had displeased her. Xiao Chao flashed a bright smile as she reassured Meng Chao that there was no reason for her to be displeased with him. However, inwardly, she seethed with anger, finding her own words nonsensical as she harbored resentment toward him for being a terrible, stupid brother. Overwhelmed with emotion, Xiao Chao broke down, confiding in Meng Chao that he bullied her every day. Meng Chao gently patted her head, attempting to comfort her, but Xiao Chao continued to protest. In response, Meng Chao questioned whether a big brother even needed a reason to tease his younger sister. In his mind, he blamed Xiao Chao for her transformation into the Dark Witch, believing she deserved his retribution while he still had the chance. Determined to prevent Xiao Chao from becoming the feared Dark Witch, Meng Chao resolved to make her the happiest and most beloved little princess in all realms. Despite Xiao Chao's continued protests as they walked through the market, Meng Chao remained unfazed, teasing her back and expressing his fondness for her even when she claimed to hate him. Xiao Chao threatened to report him to their father, but Meng Chao brushed it off, teasing her further by suggesting she secretly cared for him. Infuriated, Xiao Chao lashed out, claiming nobody cared about him because he was a bad boy. Upon their arrival at their apartment, Xiao Chao wasted no time in reporting to their mother that Meng Chao had been bullying her on the road. Meanwhile, Meng Chao announced his return, greeted by his mother with a smile. She expressed her delight at his timely return, remarking that he had come back just in time. She gently chided Xiao Chao for constantly talking about Meng Chao, then offered them freshly cooked spring rolls to enjoy while they were still warm. Meng Chao's eyes filled with emotion at the sight of his mother, and as she handed him a plate of spring rolls, she encouraged him to taste one. Overwhelmed, tears streamed down Meng Chao's cheeks, prompting his mother to affectionately call him a silly boy for crying over spring rolls. Xiao Chao teased their mother, reminding her of her previous comment about Meng Chao being out of his mind. Suddenly, their father entered the room and overheard Xiao Chao mentioning Meng Chao. He instructed her to turn on the TV to check for live coverage. Xiao Chao quickly complied, switching on the TV to reveal footage of a formidable fighting machine. The news report explained that at 8:55 that night, the Army's War Crab Commandos would enter the battlefield north of the city, equipped with the latest and most advanced war machines and Dragon City steel crabs. These machines were designed to overwhelm the otherworldly monsters threatening the city. On the TV screen, Professor C.K. Asian of Dragon City University's Department of Biology explained how crustaceans had always been the main attacking force targeting their city. Xiao Chao expressed her boredom with the repeated lessons about crustacean weaknesses, prompting her to change the channel. The new program featured a man wielding two spears leaping from a building, hailed as Dragon City's top martial artist. Xiao Chao was captivated, her eyes sparkling with fascination. Her mother remarked on Xiao Chao's obsession with martial artist Luo Wu, while her father chuckled, teasing her about being a big girl now. Unbeknownst to them, Xiao Chao daydreamed about living in a spacious house, at least 200 square meters in size. Suddenly, the power cut off, plunging the room into darkness as the TV shut down. The building trembled, and Meng Chao urgently warned everyone to be cautious, his expression filled with worry as he announced the monster's arrival. Meanwhile, a public service announcement declared the activation of Fortress Mode in the Blessed Heavenly Garden District, prioritizing energy for defense facilities. People scrambled to flee the streets, some aiding others as they sought safety. After a few tense moments, the Blessed Heavenly Garden District's fortifications were completed. However, the public service announcement continued to blare warnings of an intruder. A massive beetle-like monster emerged from the fog, accompanied by a swarm of insect monsters. War machines fired, raining bullets down on the creatures, but their sheer numbers made it difficult for the bullets to find their marks. An order was issued to activate the bunker and prioritize energy for the bunker and high-voltage towers. One high-voltage tower was activated, effectively blowing away many insect monsters. Meanwhile, Meng Chao, observing the scene through binoculars from their home, was taken aback by the sheer number of monsters. Despite having consumed all his nutrients in advance, he still harbored doubts about surviving the impending battle. Meng Chao's father entered the room, inquiring about the situation, to which Meng Chao reassured him that things were currently under control. Suddenly, an old lady accompanied by her dog entered, offering to keep watch outside. Granny Wang assured them not to worry, as she would take care of Xiao Chao and her mother, who were surrounded by 3 dogs. Concerned for Granny Wang's safety, Meng Chao asked if she was all right. In response, Granny Wang scolded Meng Chao for underestimating her due to her age, pinching his ears. Meng Chao quickly apologized, realizing his mistake. Both Granny Wang and Meng Chao froze as the gunfire ceased, indicating that the insect monsters had destroyed the high-voltage tower, depleting the machine's ammunition above the building. Suddenly, the insect monsters began emitting an ominous light from their backs, sprouting wings made of flames. Meng Chao's father identified them as mutated flame-black armor bugs, type, flying flaming bugs. Meng Chao's father swiftly retrieved weapons from their racks, cautioning Meng Chao that they were in for a challenging night ahead. He instructed Meng Chao to conserve bullets and only shoot when the monsters were within range, a command Meng Chao acknowledged. As the flaming black beetles approached the residential area, residents fired their weapons from windows, but their bullets mostly bounced off the beetles' hard shells. Meng Chao's father lamented the difficulty of hitting the creatures and admitted they could only rely on luck. Feeling agitated by the impending danger, Meng Chao contemplated the potential loss of lives that night. Suddenly, fire appeared before him, prompting a system notification asking if he would activate his first fighting quest, Hunter of Foreign Insects, aimed at killing flaming black beetles. The system promised a reward of 1,500 contribution points and the opportunity to enhance any basic skills. Meng Chao decided to accept the quest. Confidently, Meng Chao peered through the scope of his gun and activated his basic gun technique skill. With determination, he fired the gun, ignoring Granny Wang's offer to take over. 3 consecutive shots rang out, with all hitting one of the flaming black beetles, causing it to plummet from the sky. The system notified Meng Chao of a 1.1 increase in contribution points and a 25% improvement in his basic gun technique skill. Granny Wang playfully slapped Meng Chao's head, remarking that he wasn't too bad, comparing him to her late husband. Meng Chao smiled warmly, acknowledging Granny Wang as his dear grandma. He jokingly added that if Granny Wang hadn't distracted him with her chatter, his consecutive shots could have taken down the beast directly. Meng Chao resumed shooting at the flaming black beetles, noticing his contribution points and gun technique skill steadily increasing. He reflected on how his gun sense from his previous life was gradually returning. His father praised Meng Chao's marksmanship, to which Meng Chao nervously explained about his injury from the previous year and his decision to focus more on shooting practice. Encouraged by his father's support, Meng Chao resolved to continue his efforts that night. As they kept firing at the swarm of flaming black beetles, Meng Chao's father reassured him that there shouldn't be any major problems, urging him to pay attention to his body. However, Meng Chao couldn't shake off his anxiety, knowing there was still a terrifying mystery monster lurking. As Meng Chao scanned through his scope, his eyes widened upon spotting a flaming black beetle emitting a dark aura. The beetle flew through the sky, enveloped in the ominous aura. The mystery monster appeared gigantic and menacing, filling Meng Chao with terror as he realized its identity. Meng Chao recalled the nightmare where the mystery monster devastated the blessed Heavenly Garden district, triggering the reappearance of the Dark Witch. Despite firing a bullet at the monster, Meng Chao's attack proved futile as it merely bounced off. Agitated, Meng Chao realized that his current basic gun technique level was insufficient to harm the monster. To stand a chance against it, he needed to reach at least master level, if not perfect level. The mystery monster emitted a piercing shriek, drawing the attention of the troops below. They sensed something amiss with the swarm and warned each other to be cautious of the monstrous figure in the sky. As the flaming black beetles continued their charge, the troop leader instructed everyone to intercept them and prevent them from reaching the residential buildings. Meng Chao joined the firefight against the flaming black beetles, steadily increasing his contribution points and gun technique proficiency as he neared his quest quota. Meng Chao felt a sense of desperation, realizing he must enhance his gun technique before the monster fully awakened. As if responding to Meng Chao's thoughts, the light on the mystery monster's wings intensified, and it appeared to sprout a pair of eyes within them. One of the troops quickly identified the mystery monster as a super beast and urgently requested support from superhumans. However, they received no response on the other end of the line, frustrating the troop member. Meanwhile, Meng Chao continued to shoot at the flaming black beetles until his father instructed him to evacuate with his mother due to the possibility of the skybound threat being a super beast. Refusing to leave, Meng Chao insisted that his father take his mother away while he stayed behind. Despite his father's protests, Meng Chao remained firm, claiming he knew what the super beast was and referring to it disdainfully as a bastard. The super beast began gathering a powerful aura in its mouth, unleashing a devastating attack on the troops below, enveloping them in dust and debris. The ensuing explosion created a smoke screen, hindering the troops' ability to aim. Despite their efforts, their bullets failed to penetrate the super beast's shell. The super beast emitted another piercing shriek, this time spreading a golden light towards the flaming black beetles. Empowered by this light, the beetles became more aggressive, launching beams of light and targeting residential buildings. In one of the buildings, a frightened father urged his daughter to flee as a flaming black beetle appeared before them. Suddenly, a member of the self-defense force appeared and swiftly stabbed the flaming black beetle's head. The troops recognized him and were reassured by his presence, knowing that they were prepared to defend against the flaming black beetle's advance. More members of the bayonet team charged forward, declaring Dragon City's inevitable victory. As more flaming black beetles were eliminated from the sky, the system congratulated Meng Chao for completing his first battle quest, rewarding him with 1,500 contribution points. It also granted him the ability to increase the level of any of his basic skills immediately. However, Meng Chao decided to first invest all his contribution points into his basic gun technique to explore his proficiency further. Following his instructions, the system upgraded Meng Chao's basic gun technique from a normal level to an expert level, then to a master level. Meng Chao then redeemed the reward for the Hunter of Foreign Insect quest, further elevating his basic gun technique from master level to perfect level. The system provided information about the golden powder emitted by the super beast, explaining its ability to enhance the functions of other beetles. Additionally, it detailed the sensory organs within the super beast's head armor, noting their extreme sensitivity. As Meng Chao prepared to face the super beast with his modified gun, he was startled by Xiao Chao's sudden cry of pain. She fell to the floor, clearly overwhelmed by the recoil of the pistol she had fired. Meng Chao cursed inwardly, realizing that he had forgotten to modify her gun as well. Looking out the window, Meng Chao saw the super beast turning in their direction, its piercing gaze locking onto them. Alarmed by the realization that they had been discovered, Meng Chao felt a surge of urgency. Guns continued to fire from the residential building, but the super beast swiftly maneuvered out of their line of sight, making a beeline for their apartment at incredible speed. With one of the super beast's legs piercing through the hole created by Xiao Chao's shot, Meng Chao instinctively moved to protect her, warning her to be cautious. The super beast withdrew its leg momentarily before preparing to strike again. Suddenly, it lunged forward, its horns crashing into the building and demolishing the wall of Meng Chao's apartment. Meng Chao's expression twisted into one of horror as he realized the super beast had discovered them. Memories flooded back from his past life, recalling how Xiao Chao's assistance in slaying a similar monster had catastrophic consequences, a loud gunshot attracting the super beast, resulting in their mother's severe injury and subsequent hospitalization, followed by a string of misfortunes. Guilt weighed heavily on Meng Chao as he remembered sowing the seeds of darkness during that time. With steely determination in his eyes, Meng Chao swiftly aimed his gun at the super beast, believing it to be the very creature that had razed his homeland to ashes and inflicted pain upon his family 7 years prior. He squeezed the trigger, adamant that he would not allow the nightmare of his past life to repeat itself. The gunshot echoed as Meng Chao's bullet found its mark, striking one of the super beast's swings. A massive explosion erupted. Meng Chao's father, concerned for his son's safety, questioned his sanity, but Meng Chao remained resolute in his determination to eliminate the super beast. Urging his father to trust him, Meng Chao prepared to face the creature head-on. As the smoke cleared, revealing the enraged super beast with its damaged shell, it began to gather a potent aura in its maw. Meng Chao's eyes gleamed with anticipation. He knew this was his moment. With mastery honed through his basic gun technique at a perfect level, he unleashed a bullet toward the swirling aura in the super beast's mouth. The gathered aura detonated in a blinding burst, engulfing the super beast. With grim determination, Meng Chao commanded it to perish. The creature writhed in agony, flames licking its form as it plummeted to the ground. Blood seeped from its wounds as it lay motionless. Approaching cautiously, they inspected the fallen super beast, victory at last within their grasp. One of the troops proclaimed the super beast's demise, while another remarked on the unexpected prowess of Meng Chao's father, once an ace sharpshooter in the army, still retaining his vigor despite his age. The troop commander rallied everyone to exterminate the remaining flaming black beetles, igniting their determination. With zeal, the troops charged towards the remaining insects. Meanwhile, Meng Chao experienced a nosebleed and struggled to maintain his balance. Despite his physical ordeal, he felt a sense of accomplishment for slaying the super beast. As he collapsed to the ground, consciousness slipping away, Meng Chao's father called out desperately to him. In his fading awareness, Meng Chao believed he had executed a flawless plan. By utilizing a bullet to induce a spiritual energy surge within the super beast's body just before its fatal attack, he harnessed the creature's own power to bring about its demise. Meng Chao harbored the belief that indeed, nightmares could be shattered and futures altered, reaffirming his control over fate. Meanwhile, Xiao Chao's anxious expression betrayed her concern as she hurried towards Meng Chao, clutching a first aid kit. Tearfully, she implored him not to succumb to death, insisting that she had yet to settle her debts with him. Though Meng Chao winced in pain, he managed to inquire about the source of such dire words. Xiao Chao's face lit up with relief upon realizing Meng Chao's survival, while Xiao Chao playfully pinched his cheeks, checking for signs of lucidity. Despite his discomfort, Meng Chao couldn't help but acknowledge Xiao Chao's cunning nature, musing that she was indeed a dark witch. Granny Wang, too, expressed concern for Meng Chao's well-being, prompting reassurance from him that he was merely fatigued. Turning to his father, Meng Chao instructed him to claim credit for slaying the beast while keeping his marksmanship prowess a secret. His father's reassurance brought a semblance of comfort to Meng Chao, who nodded wearily, acknowledging the need for rest, especially since the insect swarm had retreated. Granny Wang's words added to the reassurance, promising not to speak out of turn. As weariness settled upon him, Meng Chao gazed vacantly into space, the damage to their apartment a stark reminder of the recent chaos. Yet, observing Granny Wang and Xiao Chao engaged in cheerful conversation brought a sense of closure. His mother, busy dusting dirt off his father, symbolized a return to normalcy, while the troops below worked together, signifying the collective victory. With a serene demeanor, Meng Chao closed his eyes, ready to embrace much-needed rest. However, his moment of peace was shattered as he suddenly realized he hadn't received the anticipated kill confirmation from the fire. Panic gripped him as he pondered the reason behind this anomaly. To his horror, the wings of the defeated super beast began to stir, signaling an ominous turn of events. Blood dripped on the floor as Meng Chao forced himself to stand up and walk, which made his father and Bai Jiatsao worry, and he was also aware that his body was still too weak. His internal injuries were not completely healed yet, and he didn't have powerful spirit energy. Meng Chao realized that even though he possessed the mindset of the perfect level basic gun technique and his previous life's memories of the monster's weakness, his body did not cooperate with his mind, and he would need a long time for his body to get used to it. There were slight problems with the accuracy and timing of the shot he fired earlier, and he did not manage to blow the super beast's head off. He knelt at the edge of their now destroyed apartment wall, squeezing out the last bit of his energy, although he was already trembling. He looked at the super beast below that was already spreading its golden powder and thought about how it was just like how Bai Jiatsao still had a high chance of being corrupted. He wondered if fate could be like a running river, and they could not change it with human power. Desperation filled his eyes as he thought that he must change their fate. Meng Chao stood in a fighting stance, thinking that he was going to use the reckless bull technique to kill the super beast. But suddenly, a bright flash of golden light appeared, followed by a ray of powerful light. The light pierced through the super beast's head. The light seemed like it was a weapon moving at a very high speed, and as soon as it pierced the super beast's head, it electrocuted the entire monster. As the sparks of the current started to die down, someone stood on top of the weapon. The person stood on top of the thin weapon gracefully. The troops immediately recognized the person as a superhuman, and they rejoiced that a superhuman had arrived. On the other hand, Meng Chao leaned on the concrete that was left of their wall as he looked at the scene below. The system notified Meng Chao of the things he had achieved, delaying the fight, which enabled the superhuman to arrive before the super beast could devastate the area, playing a key role in the battle against the monsters, which gave him 1,978 contribution points, reducing the possibility of Bai Jiatsao's corruption by 2%. So the degree of chaos in Dragon City in the future had been reduced, which gave him 500 contribution points. He could also choose to awaken a basic skill Dragon Snake Force, or a support skill Harvesting Skill. Meng Chao looked tired as he looked at the system screens, and all he could mutter was the name Superhuman. An hour later, the blessed Heavenly Garden District seemed lively, and there was music playing in the area. People wearing protective gear dissected the monsters they killed earlier. One instructed that they should be quick because after a long time those imitation crabs would spoil and could not be eaten. Another one said that anyone who collects black water should be careful and not fiddle with it because it was very valuable. Meanwhile, Meng Chao was still sitting at the place he was earlier, and he thought that after injecting a few high-density nutritional fluids and eating up all the food in the house, he had finally recovered a little. He winced as he thought that he had exchanged too many things, and that his head was still aching. Meng Chao thought that since the ghost-eyed golden wing flame beetle appeared, it meant that the monsters were getting stronger and the war was about to go out of control, so he had to use every second he had to get stronger as fast as possible. He observed his body and figured that it seemed that the memory of the perfect level skill alone was not enough, and he had to keep using the skills in real battle so that his consciousness and his body could reach uniformity. Meng Chao was in a bind, as he was aware that without cultivation resources, He would be so hungry that he would turn into a shrimp because he remembered that he was gasping for breath after killing a flaming black beetle, so he questioned how he was supposed to fight like that. Suddenly, Meng Chao realized about the harvest when Bai Jiaocao told him that the insects were being harvested outside and asked him if he didn't think that it smelled too bad. Meng Chao remembered that in his previous life, his mother was seriously injured by a super beast, and he failed his entrance exams. So in order to collect medical expenses for his mother and earn tuition for Bai Jiaocao, his father took him into the industry, and in the monster war, he didn't know how many fierce beasts he harvested as he had been a harvester for 10 years. His eyes twinkled when he realized that being a harvester was pretty good money. He ordered the fire system to let him see the redemption list. The system notification screen showed the list of skills he could redeem and his current contribution points, which were 2,478. Meng Chao looked like a rabid dog when he saw that the basic harvesting skill cost was only 998 points, and he thought that since he had done it for 10 years and it was not very expensive activating and leveling it, he might as well do something he was familiar with. His eyes were twinkling as he ordered the fire system to redeem the basic harvesting skill. Meng Chao's eyes glowed as the harvesting method for different monsters was transferred into his brain by the system. After he got the basic harvesting skill, Meng Chao ordered the fire system to raise him to the specialist level, and the system did as he ordered. As Meng Chao got bombarded with information being injected into his mind, he realized that the basic harvesting skill specialist level and the basic gun technique perfect level formed something akin to a link, so he did choose the right one. His face was flushed with excitement as he thought that most of the monsters in his memories had not yet evolved, and he wondered if it meant that when they appeared, he would be the one who understood them the most in Dragon City. As Meng Chao was laughing maniacally while thinking about the possibilities, he was unaware that Bai Jiaocao was observing him, and she was wondering if Meng Chao had any bad intentions as she saw him making such an obscene smile. Their father told Bai Jiaocao and Meng Chao to go to bed earlier because he was going to the battlefield in the north as they waited for harvesters there, but Meng Chao told him that he came with him. Meng Chao told his father that with his current state, he might not be able to get the results he wanted during his national college examination, so instead of getting a job at random, he said that he might as well become a harvester and test his luck. As his father gave it some thought, he realized that Meng Chao's marksmanship was indeed good, but his body was too weak, so in all likelihood, he wouldn't be admitted to college, and although harvesting was dangerous, it was indeed an ordinary profession with the highest probability of awakening supernatural power. He agreed to bring Meng Chao so he could experience harvesting. Bai Jiaocao looked worried as she asked Meng Chao if he really went to become a harvester, and that made Meng Chao think that in the end, the love between siblings ran deep enough that even the Dark Witch was a little worried when she heard that her big brother wanted to do such a dangerous job. With a flustered face, Bai Jiaocao was trying to remind Meng Chao about something if ever he ran into tasty monsters like the flaming black beetles again. Bai Jiaocao reminded Meng Chao to bring some home. Meng Chao slammed the gun on the floor in disappointment, and he thought that it was his fault, as he shouldn't have held such high hopes for the Dark Witch. A few moments later, a truck traveled in terrain that was filled with vine-like creatures. It was a truck for resource recovery, and while it continued to traverse the monster-filled terrain, the fire system explained that although monsters were hateful, their corpses were the only strategic resource to sustain the development of Dragon City. The system said that it would be cool if people followed the army's indiscriminate bombardment and crushed all monsters into slag, but a lot of guns and ammunition and the precious lives of soldiers would not be reaped. As a result, within 3 or 5 years, Dragon City would run out of resources, starve to death, and die of trapping, but the superhuman could kill thousands of monsters with cold weapons, so the corpses were preserved intact and many resources could be recovered. Meng Chao rode in one of the trucks for resource recovery, and he was thinking that it was no wonder that in those years, the army was only an aid against monsters. They passed by a huge monster corpse, and Meng Chao thought that the key depended on the superhuman. Meng Chao's father told him that the job of being a soldier was too rough, but being a harvester was also not easy to do, as one needs to be bold and careful, so he should not be nervous later and just learn from him, but Meng Chao told him that he was not nervous. Meng Chao's father did not believe that he was not nervous because a real battlefield was completely different from the fight they had in the district, as there were 1,000 to 10,000 monsters there, so corpses piled up like mountains and there were seas of blood, but Meng Chao insisted that he was really not nervous, so his father told him that he was his son, so he didn't have to be shy with him. so he should just admit that he was nervous. Meng Chao was about to insist that he seriously was not nervous, but the fire system told Meng Chao that the smell of advanced monsters could stimulate the central nervous system, and newcomers who have never been in battle were very likely to pee in their pants, so Meng Chao acted like he finally confessed to his father that he was nervous and that he peed his pants. Meng Chao's father felt proud that he admitted such a thing, so he taught him a secret. The first time one became a harvester, they needed to put on a diaper, and Meng Chao told him that it was midnight, so he wondered how the heck they were supposed to get diapers. Meng Chao's father proudly showed him a stack of diapers, and he told him that when they got to the place later, he should just go to a corner and put them on, and he would keep a lookout for him so that he wouldn't embarrass himself. Meng Chao felt uncomfortable, so he told his father that he was suddenly filled with confidence toward his national college exam, so he didn't want to be a harvester anymore, and he requested for him to let him go home, but his father grinned and told him that that could not be done. They started to get off the truck, and Meng Chao's father told him that their big brother Shin was the leader of the company, so Shin would be the one who decided whether he could become a harvester or not. His father was about to tell him to be smart later, but he corrected his words and told him to be good later, and Meng Chao responded that he got it. A few moments later, Shin Rongfa, the general manager of the prosperous resource recovery company, sat on a couch with multiple layers of protective suits and a fan in his hand, and he asked Lao Meng, Meng Chao's father, if it was his son that he brought. Lao Meng politely told Shin Rongfa that the current matter was what he told him before. Shin Rongfa grinned evilly as he realized that it was a sheep that came to him, and so he told Lao Meng that he heard that his son was injured, which was something he wouldn't be able to explain to his brother-in-law. Lao Meng grabbed Shin Rongfa's hand as he pleaded for him to help them, and he told him that Meng Chao was mildly injured last year but was already fine, which was why he would teach him personally, and he guaranteed that in less than 2 years, he would definitely become a skilled harvester. Meng Chao was surprised when he saw that Lao Meng was secretly handing over a card from the Golden Dragon Trade Mall to Shin Rongfa, and he knew that it was at least $10,000 per card, so he questioned how Lao Meng had so much money and wondered if he should put a gunny bag over Shin Rongfa's head to snatch the card back. Meanwhile, Shin Rongfa looked pleased as he waved the card, and he told Lao Meng that since his harvesting team was only attached to the company, he could bring whoever he wanted as his disciple as it would have nothing to do with the company, but he said that he just had one condition: they should not cause trouble. Shin Rongfa told Lao Meng that he doesn't care if he causes him trouble, but it would be bad if he makes his brother-in-law vexed. Lao Meng told Shin Rongfa that he got it so they wouldn't cause him or Mr. Hu, his brother-in-law, any trouble. Lao Meng suggested to Meng Chao that he thank Shin Rongfa, and Meng Chao bowed politely as he thanked Shin Rongfa. Shin Rongfa waved them off as he told them that it was whatever, and he said that it should be enough with the chit-chat, so they should hurry up and get to work. As the two of them bowed their heads, Shin Rongfa was wondering how Lao Meng could have so much money, and he thought that it seemed that he still had a lot of room to squeeze. Meanwhile, Meng Chao glared at Shin Rongfa, and he wondered why he had the feeling that Shin Rongfa was worse than Zhuhaoran. Lao Meng quickly turned to look at Meng Chao and told him that he should not offend Shin Rongfa. That was when Meng Chao realized that Shin Rongfa could have made Lao Meng's life really miserable in his previous life. As the two of them walked to work, Meng Chao told Lao Meng that he had been a harvester for more than 10 years, and everyone acknowledged him as their leader. He asked him why he insisted on working for Prosperous when he could set up his own company, but Lao Meng told him that it wasn't that easy to start a company because not only did they not have the startup capital, but they also didn't have the contacts to provide the Monster Corp source. Lao Meng told Meng Chao to just endure it for 2 more years because once he became familiar with the trade and by Jiaocao entered college, they could talk about it again, as he wouldn't make him suffer all of his life. Meng Chao asked Lao Meng if he ever thought about the possibility of the number of monsters increasing again, and Lao Meng asked him what he meant. Meng Chao told Lao Meng that their short-term biology teacher mentioned that once all the monsters completed their evolution, they would appear in front of them in large numbers, which would be even more violent than the current ones. Meng Chao reminded Lao Meng that their district just managed to fight off the super beast, so it was a threat but also a fortuitous event. That was why if they wanted to build up their family fortune, they must seize that chance. However, Lao Meng told Meng Chao that they should work first so he could teach him how to harvest monsters, and they would talk about it later. Meng Chao looked determined as he thought that since he had come back from a nightmare, there was no reason to rely on others, and he wanted to build his own power so that he could take his fate into his own hands. As they arrived at the workplace, Lao Meng asked Meng Chao if the diapers were carefully padded, and that rendered Meng Chao speechless. Lao Meng grabbed a yellow-tailed giant scorpion and told Meng Chao that on that day, they harvested all crustaceans, so they would mainly harvest that monster. Meng Chao immediately got the attention of the guys on Lao Meng's team. One of them confirmed with him that he had never seen so many monsters before and asked him if it was exciting. Another one told him that it was fine to come and touch the monster as there were plenty of them there, so there was no way they would let him get hurt. Another one told him to look at the pincher that was still moving, and he laughed as he asked Meng Chao if he scared him. Meng Chao thanked his uncles, but he looked disheartened. Suddenly, Lao Meng told Meng Chao that the relatively complete yellow-tailed scorpion he was leaning on would be used to teach him, and they would do it slowly, so he should watch it carefully. Lao Meng used his tools to pry open the yellow-tailed scorpion's pincers, and as he pulled its meat out, he said that its two front limbs were full of fine meat. In one swift motion, Lao Meng sliced the body of the yellow-tailed scorpion open, and he said that the hard shell could be used directly as armor or refined into an alloy, while the sticky liquid in its body could be used as fertilizer for farms or to rear gigantified earthworms. He performed an extraction on its poison needle, saying that the yellow-tailed scorpion's venom could be refined into medicine and activate the superpower in the depths of genes. He told Meng Chao that poison needles were extremely hard, making them the best sniper bullets, naturally with corrosion and virulent effects. But as he handed his toolbox to Meng Chao, he told him that he should not be afraid because it was not too valuable, so he should just do it, and if it got damaged, they could rectify his mistakes. Meng Chao told him that he would try. Meng Chao started preparing the tools to harvest the yellow-tailed scorpion. He meticulously cut its body at a 25-degree angle. Meng Chao carefully removed its central nervous cord, and the fire system instructed that after perfectly separating it, he should put it in a nerve cell activation solution with a density of 37% to keep it fresh. The system informed him that the arc of the number 34 butterfly blade was just right and could perfectly peel off the flesh and carapace, which Meng Chao followed. Meng Chao continued to follow the system's instructions as it told him that the vacuum containers made it easy to collect and store the scorpion meat intact. Finally, the system told Meng Chao that the valuable mucus was aspirated using a vacuum aspirator. The insides of the yellow-tailed scorpion were perfectly removed, only leaving its hard shell, and Meng Chao let out a sigh of relief as he wiped his forehead. While Meng Chao said that it had been a long time since he practiced, so he was still a little rusty, the system notification congratulated Meng Chao for completing his first standard gathering of materials, informing him that his contribution points had increased by 3, while his specialist-level basic harvesting skill had increased by 1.1%. Meanwhile, Lao Meng and his team were frozen in place while they looked at Meng Chao with their eyes wide open, as they were extremely surprised, and it made Meng Chao curse in his mind, as that was when he realized that he had dissected the scorpion a little too quickly and vigorously. Meng Chao told Lao Meng and his team that since things progressed to that point, he has a secret that he must tell them. Lao Meng and his team looked at Meng Chao attentively as they got curious about what Meng Chao was about to say. Meng Chao said that in truth, since he was young, he had the dream of becoming an ace harvester, so whenever Lao Meng went to work, he practiced hard in secret, and when he was injured last year, he knew that the chances of him getting into university were 0. With great enthusiasm, Meng Chao said that he became even more determined to become a harvester, so he descended into a frenzy and practiced 10 times harder than before. He said that he was also influenced by his surroundings and learned from the family, so he had been able to make a difference, and that was what they could see. Lao Meng's men were amused, saying that it was no wonder that key high schools like 9th Middle School were different, and another one told Lao Meng that he was so lucky because, with such a great successor, he could enjoy his life in the future. Lao Meng was touched when he heard that Meng Chao had wanted to be a harvester since he was young, and he wondered why he had never heard him mention that before. Meng Chao said that he did not mention it because he just found it embarrassing to admit that he idolized his father as it was cheesy, and Lao Meng called him a silly boy because even if he did not say it, he was still able to tell that he idolized him. Meng Chao and Lao Meng bumped their fists, and Meng Chao thought that it could be considered a foolish pass. On the other hand, Lao Meng was thinking that Meng Chao was so mature and skilled, but it was a pity that he, as his father, was useless and couldn't help him become a superhuman, so he could only let him follow him at the bottom of the Reaper Circle. Suddenly, Meng Chao asked Lao Meng if they should continue. Meng Chao said that after going through the real deal earlier, he found that it did connect to the theories he learned in class, so he thought he found the correct feeling in harvesting, and after hearing that, Lao Meng agreed to continue. Meng Chao continued to harvest, and he opened up another yellow-tailed scorpion. As he performed the steps again, he thought that it was right, and it was such a wonderful feeling. He was so focused while he thought that the feeling of harvesting from the previous life was back, but then, as he held the scalpel, he suddenly stopped. Meng Chao looked like he found something, and he thought that it was an unexpected surprise. The system showed Meng Chao the names of the parts of the yellow-tailed scorpion along with their worth, but there was a mysterious part that the system did not show, neither the name nor the worth. Meng Chao identified it as a golden spirit, and Lao Meng was surprised that he could even identify golden spirits. Meng Chao quickly told Lao Meng that their biology teacher taught it just recently. He put the scalpel down and instructed the team to prepare number 9, number 14, and number 20 hilts, along with number 5, number 8, and number 11 knives, as well as armor-shattering hammers and bone exploration needles. He also asked the team to prepare some cooling and stabilizing liquid with a density of 35% and add 1% of mithril to it because they might be able to get high-grade materials from golden spirits, so they needed to properly preserve it. But one of Lao Meng's men told Meng Chao that they should just leave it because they would have their superintendent Gu handle it later on. Meng Chao realized that he forgot that the internal structure of the golden spirit was complicated, and they were only one line behind the super beast, so they were handled by Supervisor Gu or another superhuman. But as he touched the golden spirit, he got worried by its state. Meng Chao smelled its liquids, and he said that its nerve cord and neurosphere had been exposed to air for too long, so if they waited any longer, its flesh would start changing, so the spirit energy in it would run rampant, and it would turn into an untamed bomb that would blow up at any moment. Lao Meng agreed that its smell was a bit off, but one of his men said that material corruption had nothing to do with them, but in the case of harvesting mistakes, Mr. Hu would blame them, and their lives would be miserable. Meng Chao got worried as he knew that Lao Meng was affiliated with Prosperous, and his income basically depends on performance, so the golden spirit with such a high value must not be let go. Meng Chao told Lao Meng's men that it was fine, so they should rest for a while. He started to operate on the monster and requested that Lao Meng help him out because his biology teacher had taught him the way to dissect golden spirits. But another man grabbed his arm and told him to stop it. Suddenly, another hand swooped in. It was Lao Meng's hand, and he grabbed the hand that was holding Meng Chao back as he declared that the golden spirit was his. He said that if anything happened, he would take the blame. The man got annoyed, and he said that Lao Meng was a man who was accompanying a child to fool around, so he quit. Lao Meng turned to tell his other men that if they wanted to go, they should go too, as there would be no need for them to be dragged by him and Meng Chao. But one of the men slapped Lao Meng as he questioned him about how he could say that when Meng Chao was like their son, they could not let him take the blame on his own. Another one tapped Lao Meng with his elbow from behind and said that they might be uneducated, but they could still handle one golden spirit. Another one put their hand on Lao Meng, saying that he should not even think about taking all of the profit from the golden spirit because if there was money, they had to earn it together, and if something happened, they had to bear it together. Meng Chao was moved by what everyone just told Lao Meng. He looked determined, and he thought that he had to work harder. With swift and precise motion, Meng Chao started to cut the muscle around the golden spirit. He pried it open and dug his hand in to grab the golden spirit. As soon as Meng Chao extracted the golden spirit, he instructed Lao Meng to use a mithril-based cooling and stabilizing solution. The eyes of Lao Meng's men were wide in surprise when they saw that it was an etherealized nerve ball and that it was so fresh, at least 80% active, and in perfect condition, so they said that it could not be just because Meng Chao was in a key high school that his skills were so good, which made them wonder if it was because of a girl. As Meng Chao took a closer look into the nerve ball, he noticed something, while on the other hand, Lao Meng warned him to be careful because freshly removed etherealized neurospheres were very active, so they could not withstand heavy tremors. Meng Chao smiled evilly as he thought that there seemed to be a more valuable treasure in the ball, but Lao Meng noticed his expression and was alarmed. Meanwhile, one of Lao Meng's men remembered that Meng Chao was injured last year, and his injury was mainly at the spine, and another one of his men realized that an etherealized neurosphere from a golden spirit would be the best medicine for him. Suddenly, Lao Meng placed his hand on the etherealized nerve ball's container as he told Meng Chao not to even think about it because it was the spoils of war belonging to the person who risked their life to kill the monster, and they were just harvesting the monster on their behalf, which surprised Meng Chao. but he seemed to be trying to explain something. But Lao Meng's gaze at Meng Chao was so firm as he told him that he knew that he wanted to get into college, just how hard it hit him when he got injured last year, and at the end of the day, he was useless, but no matter how poor or desperate they got, they could not take someone else's things. Meng Chao looked so frustrated as he could not get a word in, and he thought that Lao Meng was thinking too much, so he really misunderstood him. Meng Chao just walked away as he told Lao Meng to have enough with it, and he said that he would head back to the camp to have a quiet time. He was thinking that he would go back to the camp and find a way to persuade Lao Meng to set up his own business. A few moments later, as he walked around, Meng Chao heard a sound and recognized it as the sound of a seven-eyed wolf spider. Meng Chao quickly ran, and he thought that he must catch up because it might be his first bucket of money. Suddenly, Meng Chao stopped running. A woman was approaching a monster while an old man was watching her from behind. And Meng Chao, who hid behind the ruins, saw what was happening, and he was concerned because someone else got ahead of him. The old man told the woman, whose name was Xuesher, that she had been practicing well recently and that the seven-eyed wolf spider was perfect for her to practice with. The old man was Xuesher's grandpa, and she agreed with him. Xuesher placed her bag on the ground, and it made a huge thud. The bag was her toolbox, and as she opened it, she told her grandpa that she would finish the task in 8 minutes. As Xuesher was about to make an incision, Meng Chao observed closely as he wondered what she was doing, and he came to the conclusion that they don't know about the seven-eyed dragon wolf spider. Someone yelled for them to stop, and it caught both Xuesher and her grandpa's attention. The one who yelled was Meng Chao, and he immediately introduced himself to Xuesher's grandpa, saying that his family was planning to open a resource recycling company, and he immediately apologized for bothering them. Xuesher's grandpa was surprised that Meng Chao actually knows the manners of the harvesters, but he asked him why he stopped Xuesher from harvesting the seven-eyed wolf spider when he knew that it was taboo to disturb the harvesters. Meng Chao told Xuesher's grandpa the truth. The monster in front of them was a seven-eyed dragon wolf spider, which was currently evolving and was stuck between Grade 1 and Grade 2. He explained that currently, its internal structure was very fragile, and the newly born poison sac was as thin as a cicada's wings, which would render all the materials useless if the sac got broken, and if they followed Xuesher's method from earlier, the harvest would definitely fail. Xuesher saw Meng Chao's armband, which indicated that he was an intern, and she said that he turned out to be a stupid harvester, so it was no wonder that he didn't even recognize the white-haired ghostly hands. Xuesher's grandpa, Ningxinhua, asked Meng Chao how he could be sure that the monster was evolving when he hadn't even looked at it when he first arrived there. Meng Chao told Ningxinhua that he has been a self-taught harvester for decades, and he said that seven-eyed wolf spiders might be from the same race as seven-eyed dragon wolf spiders, but they share a difference in grade, so there was a slight difference in their shrieks before they died, which was not hard to differentiate. When he heard Meng Chao say that it was not hard, Ningxinhua's face looked grim, even though he forced a smile. Xuesher told Meng Chao to stop trying to intimidate them, and she doubted him because Ningxinhua did not manage to hear it yet he, and in turn, managed to do so. But Meng Chao was insistent as he told Ningxinhua that everything he said was true. He said that although the monster still retained the outside appearance of a seven-eyed wolf spider, many of its organs had already started mutating, and he told him that he could see for himself by breaking open the shell of the super beast. Ningxinhua gave it some thought, and he decided that it was better to be safe than sorry. He told Xuesher to let him do it. Xuesher immediately agreed with Ningxinhua, but in her mind, she was calling Meng Chao a bastard and accusing him of being there to get her in trouble. Meanwhile, Ningxinhua grabbed 2 scalpels from Xuesher's tools, and he told Meng Chao to look carefully if he wanted to learn some tricks. Meng Chao looked excited, and he told Ningxinhua that he was ready, so he should go ahead. Ningxinhua wielded the scalpel on each of his hands, and with a swift motion, he opened the shell of the super beast. But Ningxinhua's hands were trembling after he performed those movements. Meng Chao noticed it, and he immediately figured that Ningxinhua was injured, and he thought that it was no wonder that he did not want to do the operation himself. He smirked as he thought that, looking at the state of Ningxinhua, his first bucket of money was settled. Meng Chao approached Xuesher, and he asked her if she had 300,000 cash in her account, which surprised Xuesher. She asked him why he was asking. Meng Chao said that looking at Ningxinhua, he realized that he had problems with his nerves, so an assistant was definitely needed to complete the operation, otherwise, the harvested material would only be worth 300,000. Meng Chao said that, coupled with his experience, The combination of two swords could at least strip out the most valuable poison sac perfectly, and counting the other materials, the value of the project had increased by at least more than 1 million. He was twinkling as he told Schwescher that since it was fate that they got to know each other, he could offer them a discount and just take 300,000 and consider it as making his contribution to society. Schwescher was baffled by what Meng Chao just said, and she was speechless. Schwescher told Meng Chao that even if Ning Xinhua was injured, he was still the white-haired ghostly hands, and even if he needed an assistant, she would be there, so there was no need for him, a stinky in turn, to help. Schwescher was about to berate Meng Chao more, but Ning Xinhua told her to shut up, and she was taken aback. Ning Xinhua looked distressed as he told Schwescher to come and see for herself. He saw the newly born poison sac, and he said that what Meng Chao said was true. Schwescher looked horrified when she saw that the organs were wrong, and she realized that it was not a seven-eyed wolf spider. Ning Xinhua said that it was indeed not a seven-eyed wolf spider but the much rarer seven-eyed dragon wolf tiger, and it was evolving to boot, which made him think that he did not expect that he, the white-haired ghostly hand, was about to be defeated by a low-grade super beast that hasn't reached the second level. While Schwescher and Ning Xinhua stared intently at the monster, Meng Chao appeared behind them to spectate. While Ning Xinhua was still taken aback, Schwescher noticed Meng Chao and glared at him, which made Meng Chao zip his mouth. Schwescher asked Meng Chao to tell her what he wanted, and Meng Chao said that the seven-eyed dragon wolf spider was very common as it did not go through any strange and unusual super evolution. Both Schwescher and Ning Xinhua were hit hard when Meng Chao said that it was very common. Schwescher asked Meng Chao if he could really help Ning Xinhua complete the harvest for 300,000, but Ning Xinhua immediately raised the price to 500,000. Ning Xinhua told Meng Chao that if he could really help him, even if he could not handle the harvest perfectly, as long as it was acceptable and the poison sac retained 70% of its poison, he would immediately transfer 500,000 to him. Meng Chao humbly told Ning Xinhua that he had not become a superhuman yet, so his strength and senses were just average, which was why he could only serve as his assistant. While on the back of his mind, Meng Chao sighed with relief because he was glad that he reacted quickly, as he almost said that he could only guide Ning Xinhua to finish the job. Ning Xinhua immediately told Meng Chao that he would be the first assistant while Schwescher would be the second assistant and said that they should get started. Schwescher and Meng Chao immediately put on their protective gear as soon as they agreed, while Ning Xinhua was preparing to begin the surgery. Ning Xinhua was about to ask for the number 3 tool, but Meng Chao handed him the number 4 hilt with the number 7 rhombus-shaped blade. Meng Chao told Ning Xinhua that he knew that he intended to use a number 3 hilt with a number 12 pincer-shaped blade to separate the book long first, but he explained that they were working on an evolving monster and there were a lot of leaf-shaped wrinkles on its sac-shaped book long, so he was afraid that if they do that method, they might damage its appearance. Meng Chao suggested that they start from the vessel located behind the book long, separate the veins in reverse, and clear up its surroundings before they deal with the book long itself because those veins were much sturdier than they were previously, so they wouldn't snap easily, and he asked Ning Xinhua what he thought about his suggestion. Ning Xinhua was taken aback, but he calmed down and said that it was what he was thinking as well. The system notified Meng Chao that elite citizen Ning Xinhua's knowledge regarding the semi-mature seven-eyed dragon wolf spider had improved due to his guidance, so he earned 15 contribution points, which amazed Meng Chao, and he called Ning Xinhua an elite monster. A few moments later, they were already able to harvest a lot of the monster's organs. As Ning Xinhua continued with the operation, he thought that it was too comfortable to harvest with Meng Chao as an assistant, so he thought he should teach him a little bit of the 7 dissection methods. Ning Xinhua asked Meng Chao what sort of method he would use to remove the poison sac, if it was him. Meng Chao made hand gestures as he told Ning Xinhua that he would do it from below, along the central apophysis, and he would use the 7 dissection methods performed in reverse, the 3 consecutive diagonal plucks. Ning Xinhua was surprised again, and he thought that Meng Chao was a mysterious boy who upgraded the 7 dissection methods, and with that technique, the harvesting time could be reduced by at least 5%, so he wondered who he was, who his teacher was, and what kind of power and research team was behind him. Meanwhile, Meng Chao was marveling at the system notification that informed him that Ning Xinhua's understanding of the 4th dissection method of the 7 dissection methods performed in reverse had increased due to his guidance, so he received 55 contribution points, which made Meng Chao think that Ning Xinhua's learning ability was great because he just made a few random motions, but Ning Xinhua understood. Ning Xinhua was hesitant when he brought up Meng Chao's parents' reaction regarding him teaching the secret techniques like that, and Meng Chao thought that since he was an elite monster, he could not use self-taught as an excuse. Meng Chao apologized to Ning Xinhua as he admitted that he was joking with him earlier because he had his own troubles, so he could not tell him who his master was, but he told them that before his teacher let him out, he told him that the skills needed to be exchanged for the rise of Dragon City, so it was absolutely impossible to hide. Shueisha asked Meng Chao why he asked for 300,000 if that was the case. Meng Chao told Shueisha that they just met, so he was afraid that she had misunderstood him, and he explained that the 300,000 was his startup capital with which he could form his team and achieve his goal of contributing to Dragon City better. Meng Chao's eyes were filled with desire as he said that the 300,000 was not for his personal enjoyment as it was the first spark for the civilization of the earth to flourish in the other world. Ning Xinhua was surprised when he saw Meng Chao's eyes shining while he was speaking, and he thought that Meng Chao really wanted to make a contribution to Dragon City, which was rare to see in such a young man to have that kind of heart. On the other hand, Shueisha was bashful, as she thought that she did not expect Meng Chao to have such aspirations, but she still questioned him, and she admitted to herself that she was too short-sighted. Meng Chao told them that they should not continue talking and that he would support the operating area for the last poison sac, so they should separate the nerve cord while in the back of his mind, he was thinking that he did not know if Lao Meng had finished harvesting or not, so he had to go back soon. Ning Xinhua immediately agreed with Meng Chao. With swift movements, the nerve cords were cut off. Ning Xinhua was able to take out the poison sac and enclosed it in a container. Ning Xinhua asked Shueisha how much money they had in their account, and she replied that it was about 800,000, and Ning Xinhua immediately told her to send it all to Meng Chao, which surprised Shueisha. Meng Chao was extremely surprised, and he told Ning Xinhua that it was too much because they agreed on 500,000. Ning Xinhua told Meng Chao that if they have to talk about it, the technique earlier was worth more than a few 100,000, but because of having to treat his injuries, he was a little short on money lately, so he should keep that money first. He said that once he examined the materials, he would talk to him again, and Meng Chao responded that he would respectfully accept his request if that was the case and revealed that, in fact, he had some research on the other 6 dissection methods. Of the 7 dissection methods performed in reverse as well, but he thought that he would need another year and a half before he could fully recover from his wounds, so he asked if they should exchange their skills in the future. Ning Xinhua was astonished that Meng Chao knew about his injuries. Meng Chao explained to him that, from the condition of his hands, he thought that the venom of the purple-crowned Halley's viper had infected the ulnar nerve, radial nerve, and median nerve in his hands, and it even affected some of the optic nerves. Shueisha was emotional as she asked Meng Chao how he could say that Ning Xinhua would recover in a year and a half when he could tell that Ning Xinhua was injured and it was clearly an illness with no treatment. Meng Chao was puzzled when he heard that it was a terminal illness. Shueisha asked Meng Chao if he could heal Ning Xinhua's wound. Suddenly, the fire system asked Meng Chao if he would activate his first treatment quest, which has a time limit of 1 month and a reward of 200 to 2,000 contribution points based on how much Ning Xinhua recovered. In his mind, Meng Chao told the system to activate it, while he told Shueisha that he could try, but treating that sort of unknown viper's venom would be very troublesome, so he might have to search for a few weird ideas. Ning Xinhua told Meng Chao that it was already pretty good because the current situation was that the doctors didn't even have the idea of treatment, and in the back of his mind, Ning Xinhua was thinking that Meng Chao must ask his teacher for him, so he wondered how he could repay such kindness. Ning Xinhua got an idea, so he told Meng Chao that he recalled him mentioning that he wanted to open a resource recovery company later and asked him if he would be interested in signing a contract with the Thunderbolt fighting squad to harvest monsters with them. Meng Chao thought that a big team with a 5-star superhuman like Lei Qianjun, with a few small orders slipping through their fingers, would be enough for them to live on. Meng Chao thanked Ning Xinhua for his kindness, but he reminded him that the dragon wolf poison sacs were not durable, and other materials also needed to be handled, so he suggested that he take care of that side first, look for him at 5 Blessings Street to talk to him, and Ning Xinhua agreed. A few moments later, a transaction alert of 800,000 being credited to Meng Chao's account showed on his phone notification. As Meng Chao waved them goodbye, Ning Xinhua told Shueisha that Meng Chao was not a simple man, so if she had the chance, she should make him her friend, and Shueisha agreed. A few moments later, Meng Chao was hurrying back to Lao Meng, and he was grinning as he thought that he would open his account in front of his father later so he could shock him senseless. Suddenly, someone was asking for 280,000 from Lao Meng, and they said that it was already cheap. A mix of confusion and resentfulness immediately filled Meng Chao's expressions. Lao Meng was sitting in front of Shenrongfa, along with his guards, and he was telling him that it was half a cent less, so he could not fool around. Lao Meng looked extremely distressed as he sat there with a broken container in front of him. It was the etherealized nerve ball they had harvested from the golden spirit earlier. As soon as Meng Chao arrived, he asked Zhou, one of his father's men, what was wrong, and Zhou was surprised that he was there. Recalling how Lao Meng called Shenrongfa, informing him about how they just opened the golden spirit and Shenrongfa getting mad, asking if Lao Meng was crazy for touching the golden spirit as he was worried that Lao Meng had spoiled the material so Mr. Who would destroy them. Zhou immediately told Meng Chao that Lao Meng went to Shenrongfa to buy the etherealized nerve ball, and Meng Chao's face went dark. Lao Meng informed his men that he would take the etherealized nerve ball to Shenrongfa to deal with, and they were concerned when they heard that he wanted to buy it from Shenrongfa because they knew that Shenrongfa wouldn't give him an employee salary and he might even kill him. And even if he gave him the employee salary, Lao Meng wouldn't have enough money. But Lao Meng was determined, as he said that it was for Meng Chao to get into college. Lao Meng went to Shenrongfa, saying that it was the only hope. Back in the present, Shenrongfa slammed his hand on the table as he demanded that Lao Meng say something and explain what he meant, while Lao Meng looked completely devastated as he tried to tell Shenrongfa that it was not him. Shenrongfa got so mad that he pushed Lao Meng, saying that if it was not Lao Meng, it was him. Shenrongfa clarified with Lao Meng that what he wanted to say was that he dropped the etherealized nerve ball, and Xiong and Abeo helped him lie to set him up. Meng Chao came to help Lao Meng up, and he asked him what was going on, if he really dropped the goods, and Lao Meng said that it was a mess anyway and he was the one who was not careful. Seeing the greasy food on the table and Shenrongfa's greasy mouth, Meng Chao examined the broken container on the ground, and he thought that, sure enough, Shenrongfa had oil in his hands and he did not hold it firmly. Meng Chao let out a sigh, and he told Shenrongfa that since it was not clear who broke the thing, they were willing to pay half of the price difference according to the rules. Shenrongfa was surprised when Meng Chao offered half, and he said that half of the price would mean 100,000, yet he said it so lightly. Shenrongfa picked on Lao Meng, who was already distressed, saying that he tried to take the material for himself first and broke it but refused to take responsibility. He tapped Lao Meng's face provocatively and said that if those two things got out, he could forget about working anywhere else. Shenrongfa told Lao Meng that he could buy the etherealized nerve ball and take it right away, as he had promised him if he got a 3-year level 2 contract. Shenrongfa was laughing. Meng Chao's expression was grim as Shenrongfa handed the contract to Lao Meng in front of him, saying that if he could sign with him for 2 more years, he would pay him 100,000 yuan in advance, and he could buy some tonic for Meng Chao so he might be able to pass the exam, and Lao Meng agreed to sign. Shenrongfa handed the work contract to Lao Meng with an evil smile on his face, and he told him that they have a friendship. Meng Chao's eyes were filled with rage, and he slapped the work contract out of Shenrongfa's hands, pushing him in the process. He glared at Shenrongfa and told him not to even think about it. The tablet that contained the work contract was destroyed, and Shenrongfa was extremely mad as he told Lao Meng that Meng Chao had no respect for the law. Shenrongfa ordered his guards to throw Meng Chao away, calling him a brat. Lao Meng immediately stepped forward to protect Meng Chao, and he told them not to harm his son. But Lao Meng was punched in the face, causing him to cough up blood and his protective gear to break. Meng Chao caught Lao Meng so he wouldn't fall to the ground, and he called for him with concern. One of Shenrongfa's guards swung his weapon. Meng Chao gritted his teeth in pain as he got hit by the weapon on the shoulders. Meng Chao glared at the guard behind him, and he told him to get the hell out of his way. He punched the guard using his reckless bull technique, and the guard coughed up blood. The other guard came and hit Meng Chao on his side, which made Meng Chao scream in pain. Even though he was still clearly in pain, Meng Chao bore through it, and he extended his arm to grab the guard's shirt. Meng Chao hurled the guard away. The guard was sent flying, and he crashed on a boulder with such tremendous force that it broke upon impact. Meng Chao ordered the fire system to activate the ripple force and push it to specialist level. His feet produced vibrations as Meng Chao took a step forward, and he thought about his previous life. He was filled with rage as he realized that Shenrongfa was the one who tricked Lao Meng into signing the dangerous 2nd-level contract. Shenrongfa looked terrified, and he told Meng Chao that they could talk. But Meng Chao slapped his face and told him to go talk to his ancestors' ass. Shinronfa's protective gear was completely destroyed, with his face swollen red as he coughed up blood, and Meng Chao thought that that slap in the face was for changing the contract in his past life so they could not sue him. Meng Chao slapped Shinronfa on the other side of his face, and he thought that it was the slap for withholding Lao Meng's insurance money in his past life so they could not afford to pay for his injuries. He punched Shinronfa in the gut and thought that that punch was for making Bai Jiatsao stop believing in legal justice and make her take the dark route in his past life. Meng Chao kicked Shinronfa, and he crashed into a truck. Shinronfa was completely beaten up, and he even peed his pants, but Meng Chao looked like he was not yet content as he looked down at him with contempt in his eyes. But suddenly, Lao Meng grabbed him by the shoulder, telling him that it was enough and asking him if he wanted to go to jail, and Meng Chao did not say anything. He asked Lao Meng if he was okay, and Lao Meng told him that he was fine while checking up on him too. Lao Meng's men immediately approached them, and they told Meng Chao that he was so impulsive, lecturing him that it was easy to get things out but hard to take them back. Meanwhile, on Meng Chao's head, his angel side lectured him that he was too reckless, saying that he should have waited until dark to beat Shinronfa over because he should be absolutely calm and remember his identity at all times. But his devil side was laid back as it told the angel one to just forget it as he already beat Shinronfa up. The devil side even asked if he should go and kick Shinronfa a few more times so he could get his fill of beating him up, but the angel side said that Meng Chao was supposed to be a gentle and elegant high school student. In reality, Meng Chao still looked extremely mad, and he glared at Shinronfa, contemplating beating him more, but Lao Meng grabbed his shoulders again, telling him that he was mad as he asked him if he would kill Shinronfa. Meng Chao tried so hard to control his anger as he admitted to Lao Meng that he was wrong and that he would change next time, but he asked him to let him have one more kick, just for that day, and he promised that it would be the last one as he wouldn't do it again next time. But suddenly, Gu Ming, the Prosperous Resource Recovery Company's business executive, arrived, and he told Meng Chao to stop it. Lao Meng and his men were surprised when they saw Gu Ming, and they recognized that the man who was with Gu Ming was Qin Hu, the Prosperous Resource Recovery Company's big boss, also known as the Tiger Down the Mountain. Meng Chao thought that both Gu Ming and Qin Hu actually came. As Shinronfa's guards knelt in front of those two, Meng Chao thought that Gu Ming, the business director of Prosperous Resource Recovery Company, was the top boss of all harvesters. He recalled that in his previous life, Gu Ming and Shinronfa did a lot of immoral things while the huge man behind him, Qin Hu, was the big boss of the company, a superhuman who was known as Tiger Down the Mountain, and he killed countless monsters. One of the guards immediately started reporting to Gu Ming. Gu Ming was surprised when he heard that someone broke a rare material, destroyed the company tablet, and even beat up a person. He told Lao Meng that it was all Meng Chao's doing, but Lao Meng defended Meng Chao, and he told Gu Ming that it was him and Shinronfa who had a conflict, so he would pay for whatever losses were suffered as it had nothing to do with his son. Lao Meng's men also backed him up. They said that Shinronfa's bodyguards were the ones who attacked first. Lao Meng might not have been the one who dropped the rare material, and they refused to believe that there was no law in Dragon City, questioning if the Supernatural Tower and Survival Committee were blind and deaf. Gu Ming was annoyed, as he thought that Shinronfa was a dumb cunt motherfucker who only knew how to cause trouble, and if he was not the brother-in-law of Qin Hu, he wouldn't be tolerating him. Gu Ming said that other things aside, at least Shinronfa was beaten up by Meng Chao. He leaned towards Meng Chao, telling him that he beat Shinronfa badly, which was why if he was captured, he would definitely be sentenced to jail, and if he was imprisoned for a few years, his entire life would be ruined. Lao Meng panicked, and he told Gu Ming that they couldn't capture Meng Chao. Gu Ming told Lao Meng to look at Shinronfa's injuries and said that Meng Chao committed a crime, so he asked him if he should capture him or not. But Meng Chao simply smiled, and he told them to hurry up and call the police so they could send Shinronfa to the hospital because they needed to determine the severity of his injuries after all. Gu Ming was puzzled, and he wondered why Meng Chao was still being so stubborn. Suddenly, Qin Hu took a step forward. He picked up Shinronfa with only one hand without effort, and he inspected his condition. Qin Hu said that it was a perfectly executed ripple force. He explained that on the surface, it looked horrible, and the hidden force made Shinronfa feel painful, but it did not hurt any bones or organs, and it could not even qualify as a minor injury to be sent for medical examination. Qin Hu threw Shinronfa away. As Shinronfa flew the onside, Qin Hu expressed his amazement at how high school students becoming more and more remarkable. Meng Chao confidently asked Qin Hu if he was interested in beating up a high school student to take revenge for his brother-in-law. Qin Hu asked Meng Chao who he thought he was, and he told him that, for the sake of his unique ripple force, he asked him how he wanted the matter settled. Meng Chao told Qin Hu that he thought he was going to ignore the rules set by the Transcendental Tower and the Survival Committee to take on an ordinary person like him, but in the back of his mind, Meng Chao thought that Qin Hu might have seen the goodness of the future version of Ripple Force, so not knowing his details, he was pretending to be generous. Meng Chao pointed at the broken container as he said that the matter of the rare materials was not clear at the moment, so each party would bear half of the damage, and he told them that they could estimate the price while he called the money immediately. Meanwhile, Lao Meng and his men looked shocked as Meng Chao told Qin Hu to remember to have Shen Rongfa pay the performance bonus he owed to Lao Meng and his harvester team. He mentioned that since the incident had happened, they definitely could not work in Prosperous anymore, so they might as well use the chance to settle accounts immediately. Qin Hu looked pissed, and Gu Ming noticed it. Gu Ming was annoyed, and he asked Meng Chao what he was saying when he beat up Shen Rongfa really badly, so he should still compensate for medical fees. Meng Chao was firm as he told Gu Ming that Lao Meng was also injured as Shen Rongfa's two bodyguards knocked him into the air with an ancient martial art, so no one knows if Lao Meng's internal organs shifted or whether his bones burst. Lao Meng looked surprised when he heard that it was an ancient martial art that dealt the heavy blow. Meng Chao raised his shirt and said that even if Lao Meng was fine, those bodyguards were still the ones who dealt that wound to him. Qin Hu was surprised. He laughed hysterically, and there was an unhinged look in his eyes as he said that things were really interesting. Meng Chao looked clueless as he asked Qin Hu how he wanted the matter resolved if he thought that what he said was not appropriate. Qin Hu and Gu Ming immediately looked at each other as an idea immediately popped into their minds. Gu Ming told Qin Hu that lately the Golden Spirit's etherealized neurospheres were worth around 300,000 in the market if the condition was perfect. Qin Hu told Meng Chao that if he gave him 300,000 yuan, he could take his stuff and go, but Meng Chao said nothing, and he just glared at him, so Qin Hu told him that if he could not bring the money out for the time being, it was fine as he could write an IOU because, as he said, he was not lacking money. But Meng Chao handed him his phone and told him that there were plenty of people watching there, so he believed in his reputation. He told Gu Ming to collect the money, and Gu Ming did so by scanning Meng Chao's phone with his. As he got notified that he had received 300,000 yuan in his account, Gu Ming was taken aback, and he wondered where Meng Chao got all that money. Lao Meng was worried, so he approached Meng Chao to question him, but before he could speak, Meng Chao told him not to worry because it was all clean money, which he would explain later. Meng Chao told Qin Hu that since he gave him the 300,000, the rare item was already his, and Qin Hu told him that he didn't even care about that mere etherealized neurosphere. Meng Chao smiled as he immediately picked up the item and instructed Lao Meng to make a silver nitrate solution. Meng Chao dropped the item into the solution. Its surface started to fizz. Gu Ming looked extremely horrified by what he saw. He saw a crystallized neurosphere, which was worth 1,000,000 yuan. Qin Hu looked extremely mad when he heard that it was worth 1 million. Meng Chao turned to Lao Meng and told him that, in fact, after harvesting, he found that there seemed to be something inside, so he started to study. But he scolded him, saying not to take anything that was not theirs, so he let Gu Ming and Shen Rongfa worry about what it was. Upon hearing what Meng Chao said, Qin Hu immediately glared at Gu Ming and Shen Rongfa behind him. Meng Chao continued saying that, including what just happened earlier when he clashed with Shen Rongfa, he was still thinking of his teaching, so he proposed a half-cost condition so if there were really crystallized neural spheres inside, they could all make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Qin Hu got more enraged, and he emitted a dark aura as he glared at Shen Rongfa. Meng Chao smiled as he said that he did not expect that Shen Rongfa and Gu Ming would refuse to accept his suggestion, which was why he could only take a big risk in buying the material, and if he was wrong, he would accept the loss, but he was right, so at least he would have bought it fair and square. Lao Meng and his men let out a sigh of relief. Qin Hu looked extremely mad as he told Meng Chao that he was an interesting high school student and he would remember him, so he should take his crystallized neurosphere and go. Lao Meng and his men looked so happy as Meng Chao carried the crystallized neurosphere with him and said that they should go. But as they were walking away, someone asked him to wait. It was Lao Li, the 10th Harvest Team leader, and he asked Lao Meng what he was going to do next. Lao Meng was taken by surprise, but Meng Chao immediately told Lao Li that Lao Ling had already found a new source for carcasses, so since they already had the startup capital, they were going to do it themselves. Lao Li was surprised, and he asked if they really had a new source of carcasses and if they could take them with him. Meng Chao thought that he did not want to mess with Qin Hu as he was a superhuman, but since he had already offended him, there was nothing for him to be afraid of a mere Qin Hu wanting to stop him from taking his fate into his own hands. Meng Chao told Lao Li that they would definitely not lack carcasses because even if 3 or 5 more teams came, everyone would have a job to do and money to earn, so they would live a much more comfortable life as well. Lao Li was pleased to hear it, so he immediately thanked Qin Hu for his attention to his harvesting team, saying that they get along pretty well, but all things come to an end, so they would work with him until the end of the month, and the other harvesters were also having doubts when they heard that Lao Meng and Lao Li were leaving. Qin Hu was enraged, and he thought that Meng Chao was a little bastard who was going to create root problems. He loomed over Meng Chao and told him that it looked like he just didn't know how dark the harvesting field was. But Meng Chao was not threatened, as he thought that Qin Hu did not have the guts to dare to attack him in public. On the other hand, Qin Hu wondered what Meng Chao's nerves were made of because he was not reacting at all and it seemed like he was a little too dense. Suddenly, Ning Shenhua arrived with Xuesher and another mystery person, and he greeted Meng Chao as his young friend. Qin Hu looked mad as he turned to look and asked who it was, while both Shen Rongfa and Gu Ming looked surprised when they recognized Ning Shenhua, the white-haired ghostly hands. Qin Hu seemed clueless about who Ning Shenhua was, but his eyes suddenly went wide in surprise. He recognized the man that Ning Shenhua was with, and it was Zhang Yupeng, the vice-captain of Thunderbolt. The fierce Qin Hu immediately turned into a cat. He was licking Zhang Yupeng's boots as he asked him why he was there. Zhang Yupeng looked puzzled as to what Qin Hu was doing, and he called him Old Hu. But Qin Hu told Zhang Yupeng that he should call him Young Hu as he would not dare to refer to himself as Old Hu in front of him because he was fortunate enough to hunt down a 9-winged golden eagle with his team last year, and that earth-shattering slash Zhang Yupeng delivered was simply amazing, so he did not expect that he would still remember him. Zhang Yupeng said that he was actually free, so when Ning Shenhua said that he had a young friend over there, he came over to take a look with him to see whether they would have a chance to work together. Qin Hu saw Meng Chao proudly show off his crystallized ethereal neurosphere to Ning Shenhua and Xuesher. He turned to glare at Gu Ming and Shen Rongfa and told them that they were pieces of trash who could not do anything but make things worse. On the other hand, Meng Chao told Lao Meng that they should go as they had to look for a quiet place to talk to Ning Shenhua and Zhang Yupeng. But as they started to walk away, Meng Chao remembered something. He looked under the truck, where someone was trembling. The person under the truck was Shen Rongfa, and Meng Chao told him not to be scared because he was actually a gentleman who just wanted what belonged to him. Meng Chao reminded him that Lao Meng gave him a store card worth 10,000 so that he could work in Prosperous, but since he did not want to spend even a minute longer in Prosperous, he asked him to return the store card. Shen Rongfa looked so surprised, while Xuesher was giggling on the side. On the other hand, Qin Hu looked extremely mad as he called Shen Rongfa's name. Shen Rongfa trembled as he handed out the store card. Meng Chao swiped the store card off Shen Rongfa's hand when he remembered that there was one more thing. He told Shen Rongfa that everyone's insurance was always withheld by their company, so Lao Meng and his friends would come over the next day to verify it. The accounts needed to be clear, and they needed proof to avoid future arguments. Meng Chao politely told Gu Ming and Qin Hu that it was all his request, so he had to trouble them for that, and he thanked them. Qin Hu was fuming mad but couldn't say anything. Shen Rongfa still lay on the ground as Meng Chao and his group walked away. Qin Hu was fuming mad as he grabbed Shen Rongfa by the collar, asking him if he actually took the employee's insurance. Shen Rongfa panicked and pleaded for Qin Hu to listen, but Qin Hu slapped him in the face so hard that his teeth were sent flying. Meanwhile, in a quiet place in the city, Ning Shenhua told Meng Chao that the Thunderbolt team had recently launched a youth training camp. It would kill a large number of monsters, so it needed experienced ordinary harvesters on their side. On the other hand, Meng Chao told Ning Shenhua that he had a crystallized neurosphere but didn't have a channel to sell it. He asked if he could help. Ning Shenhua told Meng Chao that coincidentally, there would be a rare materials trading fair 3 days later, and the standard was pretty high. He might be able to sell the crystallized neurosphere for a high price there. He asked if Meng Chao was interested in taking a look. Meng Chao told Ning Shenhua that he would be there. Ning Shenhua, Xuesher, and Zhang Yupeng watched as Meng Chao departed. Meanwhile, Meng Chao was thinking that an ordinary citizen, Chu Feixiong's reckless bull technique, provided 10 contribution points after learning 10% of it. It stood to reason that he got less when Manhwa, an elite citizen who had learned the more advanced 3 consecutive diagonal plucks, only got him 70 points. He gave it some thought and concluded that it must be because Confronting was younger and had more possibilities. Meng Chao smiled as he realized that it meant he should search for the young and ignorant youths who have bright futures and trick them. But Meng Chao took back his words and thought that what he meant was that he would be guiding them. He had the idea of posting the reckless bull technique anonymously on the internet, but the fire system appeared. It told Meng Chao that the brainworm, a special monster that appeared in the late war, could live in the human brain as parasites. They could control their central nervous system and muscle reactions. Meng Chao remembered that it was a common tactic of the monsters in the late war, using brainworms to assassinate the key figures of Dragon City. Meng Chao also remembered that there were also a large number of monsters with mind control powers. He realized that once those monsters knew about him, they would try to capture him and read his memories. If his secret was exposed, not only he but also his family would be in danger because of him. So before he had the strength to suppress all of the other world and find a suitable method, he absolutely could not share it. Meng Chao was deep in thought, thinking that sooner or later, he would end up showing his might. He would need to come up with a suitable explanation, one that would help him cover everything when someone placed a blanket over him. He opened his eyes and saw that it was Lao Meng. Lao Meng asked Meng Chao if he was okay, and Meng Chao told him that he did not have to worry about what happened that day because he found a master on the deep web who taught him a lot of skills. That's why he was already mostly recovered from his injuries, and he might still be able to get into college. So when that time came, Lao Meng and Meng Chao's mother could just wait to live a blessed life. But Lao Meng got mad at Meng Chao, asking him why he was still going to those harmful websites. Meng Chao reminded Lao Meng that he explained to him multiple times that the Life Science Forum on the deep web was a place of both risk and opportunity. Then he told him not to worry because he already suffered once last year, so he knew his boundaries. Lao Meng calmed down and told Meng Chao that he did a great job that day, but he said that he just hoped that Qin Hu would not retaliate. Meng Chao confidently told Lao Meng that as long as he could get into college, he would have the college as his backup, so Qin Hu would not dare to hurt an undergraduate. Lao Meng patted Meng Chao's head and told him to hurry up and sleep as he had to go to school the next day. Suddenly, the fire system notified Meng Chao that the special citizen, Bai Jiacao's, possibility of being corrupted had been reduced by 2%, increasing his contribution points by 200. Meng Chao was pissed, and he said that he had just gotten rid of 2 landmines, but the system was telling him that the possibility of corruption had only been reduced by a small percent. So he said that Bai Jiacao was just born to be the Dark Witch. The next day, Meng Chao went to school and looked extremely tired. Suddenly, his classmates approached him. One of them told him that he was in a hurry to go back the other day and that he did not join the study group, so he seriously missed something great. Another one said that he just practiced a bit, and he felt his strength grow by leaps and bounds. He felt like he could kill a monster with just one punch. Another one explained to Meng Chao that the other night, Confronting taught them the super reckless bull force. Everyone flexed and showed off their muscles to Meng Chao. One of them told him that he did not see what happened that time when everyone looked like they had contracted the mad disease and were so violent. Everyone chased the guy who just said those things, Wang Tao, and they told him that he had mad cow disease and demanded him to stop right there. A few moments later, Meng Chao arrived and seated himself in their classroom when a classmate arrived and worriedly reported to the class that someone told the homeroom teacher about them privately organizing a study group. The classmate added that old Wang had decided to speak to Confronting, and he wanted him to cancel the study group, which surprised everyone. Meng Chao was calm as he looked over Zhuhaoran, and he said nothing. But Meng Chao's expression turned dark as he thought that if he wouldn't let Zhuhaoran bleed a little that time, Confronting's surname would not be Chu. Meng Chao immediately stood up, acted angry, and asked who was so evil to do such a thing, questioning if they were crazy or something. His classmates agreed, questioning who was so evil that he would destroy what was good for everyone, and Meng Chao said that practically everyone had joined the study group in their class, so he wondered who exactly was so bored that he would report such a thing and make a fool of himself. Everyone immediately looked in the direction of Zhuhaoran when Meng Chao speculated that Confronting could have gotten into any sort of conflict with anyone lately, and he could not send anyone sprawling on the ground or make them lose their dignity. Everyone hounded Zhuhaoran, saying that what he did was not right as he spoiled the good thing for everyone when he and Chu Feixiong were having conflict, and they accused him that he just did not want to see everyone's marks increase. Zhuhaoran got annoyed, and he furrowed his brow. He immediately closed the book that he was reading and confronted Meng Chao, telling him to stop making unfounded accusations. Zhuhaoran got more annoyed when Meng Chao acted shamelessly, telling him that he did not state any names or point fingers, but he just admitted to it on his own. Zhuhaoran calmed himself down. Acting concerned, Zhuhaoran told his classmates not to listen to Meng Chao's nonsense because he did not tell their homeroom teacher anything, but little did they know that Zhuhaoran was thinking that he had accidentally told his uncle about it, who also happened to be the teaching director. Everyone felt uneasy when Zhuhaoran said that, in his opinion, it was a good thing that the so-called study group had been abolished from the start because Chu Feixiong's super reckless bull force was incredibly domineering, so if his guess was correct, it mobilized a secret technique that stimulates human potential, which meant that it would severely drain the body and result in all sorts of hidden injuries. Zhuhaoran said that many of them did not know that the checkups during the national college examination were becoming stricter, so once they discovered that they had taken forbidden medication or were practicing some deviant technique, they would be considered to be cheating and their marks would be cancelled. But Wang Tao confronted Zhuhaoran, asking him how he would know that Chu Feixiong's super reckless bull force was a deviant technique. Zhuhaoran said that he did not want to say it, but for everyone's sake, he went to look for information from various sources, and he realized that Chu Feixiong's strange reckless bull force came from the deep web. He said that the dangers of the deep web methods were the most clear to Meng Chao. Meng Chao just stared at Zhuhaoran as he said that he believed that Chu Feixiong must have accidentally received the link and account from Meng Chao, and by pure accident, he walked onto a stray path. Meng Chao was looking at the system notification that informed him that normal citizen Wang Wangjun had indirectly received his guidance for the secret of the reckless bull technique, and his progress was 30%, which would be able to produce stronger students in larger numbers in the future, so his contribution points were raised by 50. When Meng Chao discovered that Wang Wangjun, their homeroom teacher, had learned the reckless bull technique, he thought that Zhuhaoran could not climb out of that pit. He turned and admitted that it was his fault, so if Chu Feixiong really gets angry later and stops the study group, they could just scold him, and everyone was surprised that Meng Chao was admitting defeat. Suddenly, Chu Feixiong entered the classroom with a worried look on his face. Chu Feixiong immediately whispered in Meng Chao's ears that Wang Wangjun was very interested in super reckless bull force and wanted to promote it to the whole class. However, he did not dare to make the decision on his own, so he asked Meng Chao about his thoughts. Meng Chao immediately acted surprised and crestfallen as he confirmed with Chu Feixiong in a loud voice if Wang Wangjun really wanted to cancel the study group. Zhuhaoran immediately lectured them not to think nonsense because there was no shortcut to training, and there were only 4 words: God rewards hard work. Therefore, they should forget about the super reckless bull force or whatever it was called and work hard with him with every second they had. But Zhuhaoran was hit very hard when Meng Chao added that Wang Wangjun wanted to cancel the secret study group so that he could promote the super reckless bull force to the whole class. Zhuhaoran was petrified when Wang Wangjun came in, and he asked him what was going on. Meng Chao immediately confessed to Wang Wangjun that he made a mistake. Wang Wangjun got worried, and he asked Meng Chao what he did at that time. Meng Chao acted remorseful as he confessed that the other day, after Chu Feixiong promised to organize a study group, he regretted it a bit and said that the super reckless bull force was too high-end. He did not quite understand it when he practiced it, so he refused to teach other students wrongly. Wang Wangjun was listening intently as Meng Chao said that he thought Chu Feixiong was right, so he came up with the stupid idea that they should pretend that the super reckless bull force came from the deep web, and he suffered from it last year, which was why he thought of it. Chu Feixiong was in tears when Meng Chao said that he was an honest kid, so he actually believed his words and seriously told that to some of the students. Zhuhaoran took multiple hard hits when Meng Chao said that, in the end, some bastard who ratted them out should fall into a ditch, be pierced by 1,000 knives, step on poop, get diarrhea, trip over his own feet, and never get married. Wang Wangjun was unamused by Meng Chao's words, and he reminded him to have manners. Meng Chao immediately apologized, and he said that he was just blaming himself and that he was too angry, which was why all those crude words came out of his mouth, but everyone knows that he was usually very polite. Wang Wangjun just accepted Meng Chao's explanation. He asked everyone in the class if they heard that Chu Feixiong's super reckless bull force was a basic force execution method that was very orthodox, and he said that as long as he taught it to them, they could practice it with no worry whatsoever, so everyone in the class rejoiced. Meng Chao immediately raised his hand and told Wang Longjun that each class leader was given extra resources to compensate for the time and effort they spent managing the class, so he suggested that since Chu Feixiong was instructing the class, he was helping to share half of the class rep's work, so the class leader must also be willing to share half of the cultivation resources with Chu Feixiong. Wang Longjun was hesitant, so Meng Chao asked Wang Tao if he thought that Zhuahaoren would hesitate, but Wang Tao did not answer and looked away. So Meng Chao turned to ask Gu Fang to tell him what sort of person Zhuahaoren was. Gu Fang blushed as she said that Zhuahaoren was not a petty person. Meng Chao said that everyone was able to see the truth. Zhuahaoren was silent for a moment, and he slammed his hand onto his desk as he told Wang Longjun that as long as it was beneficial to the entire class, he would definitely not complain about it. Meng Chao suggested to Chu Feixiong that he thanks Zhuahaoren, and Chu Feixiong was surprised. Zhuahaoren smiled at Chu Feixiong and told him that he deserved it, so he was welcome, but in his mind, he was extremely mad, calling Meng Chao a devil for taking away half of the training resources his uncle managed to get for him. Wang Longjun told the class that whoever wanted to enter the legendary undergraduate course should listen up, and he said that there were 3 hurdles that they had to overcome. Level 1 was the initial test that was conducted on their campus, and they tested extreme punching force, 100-meter dash, and shooting skills, and that year, there were only 150 spots available at their school. Level 2 was the retest, and it was held in the Regional Educational Department, where they used a supercomputer VR system to test the students' mental strength. Level 3 would be the ultimate practical test, which was the entrance exam that required going to the edge of the city, close to the fog, and they had to enter a real battlefield. Wang Longjun said that walking down the path of superhumans was a path of life and death, and it could bring them endless glory, but it was also very dangerous. If it were not for the 6 elders of the sky, it would be better for them to get rid of those thoughts early on and focus on getting into post-secondary specialized colleges. One of the students said that it was unfair because even if his mark during his 100-meter dash was not that great, it did not mean that he wouldn't have an epiphany during a real fight and suddenly reveal his talents. Wang Longjun got mad when he heard the student ask for fairness, and he said that there had never been fairness in their world. Wang Longjun said that when Dragon City transmigrated into that world, they had nothing, but they had to face the invasion of zombies and monsters, so he asked them if they should be talking about fairness with zombies or monsters at the moment. He added that the superhumans were slowly born among them, stood above them, and possessed all sorts of special privileges, but all that they enjoyed was not handed to them on a silver platter. They had to use their fists, weapons, and even teeth to snatch those from the monsters. Meng Chao was clenching his fists as Wang Longjun said that it was the greatest fairness they would see. Wang Longjun told them that the disability and death rates for the current year's entrance exams were twice as high as last year's, and also that the disabled and deceased candidates of that year's entrance exams would be treated as disabled and fallen soldiers. Meng Chao thought that the authorities must have sensed something, that the monster was about to escalate, so what they were doing was speeding up the training of superhuman warriors. Wang Longjun said that the current entrance exam was a real war, so for those of them who were not very good fighters, he really didn't recommend them to go to undergraduate school. He told the class to go to the testing room and see what they could do, and if they could not reach the speed of an Olympic champion in short-distance running or the punching force of a heavyweight champion, they would not be able to pass the test in school, so they would not need to bother with that anymore. Meanwhile, Meng Chao was just observing and listening intently. A few moments later, in the running track, the instructor told everyone not to be so depressed as he had good news for them, and he said that if they passed the entrance exam, they would get double the amount of training resources available to each undergraduate candidate compared to the previous years. Everyone responded, saying that the time had come for them to use their weapons and fists to expand the living space of Dragon City, and it was time for them to have their names spread far and wide. Wang Longjun told them to dissolve and start the test. As everyone started to prepare, one of their classmates sighed, saying that those monsters bothered them for an entire night the night before, and he did not manage to sleep well at all, so he would definitely not be able to bring out his full strength. Another student said that he was the real pitiful one there because he sprained his ankle the day before, and he was limping that day, so he might end up over 10 seconds during the 100-meter dash later, so he sighed. but another student told off the two of them, requesting them to start acting like decent human beings because the two of them were ace students in class, but they were all pretending as if they have myasthenia gravis when there was no need for them to do that. One of the students who said that he did not sleep well managed to produce 223.3 kilograms of punching power, and the student from earlier told him that he was in the top 5 of the class when he still did not sleep well, so he was a monster, an animal, and a scum. On the other hand, the student who said that he sprained his foot managed to finish the 100-meter dash in 9.57, and the student from earlier pointed out that he already surpassed Usain Bolt's world record, so he mocked him for saying that he was limping and demanded that he treat the entire class to milk tea. Meanwhile, Meng Chao was observing the ladies, who were also exerting their best efforts, and he thought that it was youth. A few moments later, a new record for punching force, which was 233.3 kilograms, was set. Wang Tao gave Chu Feixiong a thumbs up and told him that he just renewed the class record, and even the Earth's boxing king, Mike Tyson, could not compare to him, which made Chu Feixiong bashful. Meanwhile, Wang Longjun was looking at the records, and he thought that the grades of the students who participated in the study group had improved a lot in each project, so he realized that the super reckless bull force doesn't seem easy. On the other hand, Meng Chao was looking over at Chu Feixiong, who was being bashful as their classmates continued to praise him. Suddenly, someone said the word trash, which made Meng Chao turn his head. It was Zhuohaoren, and he told Meng Chao that even if Chu Feixiong broke the record, got into college, and became a superhuman, it was useless because Chu Feixiong could soar to the skies, but he would forever be trash. Meng Chao looked completely uninterested, and he thought that the class rep's trash talk had come. He remembered that in his previous life, he lost his mind when he was attacked by Zhuohaoren's trash talk, so before his body healed, he got into a fight with him. As a result, Zhuohaoren left hidden injuries in the duel with his underhanded technique, and it attacked Meng Chao during the college entrance exam so that he did not even get into a higher vocational college. Meng Chao was clicking a pen in his pocket as he questioned what he would do in his current life. The others continued to participate and give their best on the test. Zhuohaoren asked Meng Chao if he was thinking about getting into college and told him to do it in his next life. Suddenly, Chu Feixiong waved at Meng Chao and proudly told him that he broke the record. Zhuohaoren tapped Meng Chao's shoulders and told him that it was his turn, so he wished him good luck, saying that they would all support him. Meng Chao waved his hands to prepare as he said it was his turn. Zhuohaoren immediately got everyone's attention, and he told them that Meng Chao was going to test the 100m run, so he asked them to applaud and cheer for him. Everyone wished Meng Chao good luck. One of them told him to work hard and fight as he would definitely be able to get into a higher vocational college. Another one said that they were all supporting him, so he should not fail class 6. Meng Chao thought that Zhuohaoren was really a ghost. He told his classmates to stop because he was in the neighborhood last night fighting monsters, so he was very weak at the moment, and his body could only exert 50% of its strength, so he was not in good condition that day. Wang Tao told Meng Chao that it was too late to work hard at that moment, so he would teach him the super reckless bull force in the afternoon self-study class. Zhuohaoren smiled as he told Meng Chao not to worry, as everyone knows his situation, and he said that the most important thing for a person was to defeat themselves, so he should not think about comparing himself to them, as it was pretty good to be a little bit stronger than himself. As Meng Chao placed his feet on the starting block, he said that his body was too weak, so he could not handle the super reckless bull force. But he added that he has been using ripple force to treat his wounds for the past year, so he guessed he would try to use it. A powerful aura started to move around Meng Chao as he used the ripple force. Zhuohaoren looked surprised when he saw that. Meng Chao told him to step aside because he was about to move. Zhuohaoren's glasses and face were blown away by the gust of wind that Meng Chao's driving force created as he started to run. Meng Chao finished the 100-meter dash in 8.57 seconds, and his speed was 90 kilometers per hour. Meng Chao cursed as he said that his body was too weak and he was slower by 0.01 seconds, so he could not even surpass Usain Bolt's record, which was why he doesn't even have the right to get into college. But in his mind, he was thinking that he should not be ostentatious, so he should just show his act for a while. Everyone was speechless, including Zhuohaoren, as they stared at Meng Chao. Meng Chao asked them what was wrong, and Chu Feixiong came to tell him about his speed. But before Chu Feixiong could finish his sentence, Meng Chao let out a sigh and told him that he knew that it was pretty slow, so he felt really vexed about it. Meng Chao got nervous when Chu Feixiong was fuming mad, and he was asking what he should do because it was so painful and so hard to control as he wanted to beat the pretender to death. Meanwhile, Wang Wangjun was so surprised, and he asked Meng Chao if he had recovered from his wounds. Meng Chao said that he has not fully recovered, but he has been practicing ripple force hard over the past year, and he found some new styles and learned from them, so he supposes he got a blessing in disguise. He smiled as he told his classmates that if they wanted, he could teach it to them as well, and they just had to give him some gene medicine, high-grade nutritional fluid, cell growth fluid, monster materials, or give him a discount on stuff, as he was okay with anything. Wang Tao realized that 2 upgraded versions of force execution techniques meant that the entire class's scores were bound to soar. Chu Feixiong reluctantly asked Meng Chao if his maximum punching force had been as ridiculous as his 100-meter dash, but Meng Chao told him that there was no way, and as he asked him if he thought that he was a monster, he told him that his punching strength was sloppy and average. Meng Chao stretched his body as he said that he had harvested monsters for an entire night with his father, and his arms were so numb that he could not even lift them properly, which was why he would just have to try his best for that test. One of their classmates said that with Meng Chao's incredible speed, even if his punching strength was only 180 kilograms, he could still hope to pass the internal test, but another classmate said she could not say because she remembered that Meng Chao's maximum punching force was around 150 kilograms or 160 kilograms when they last tested their punching strength, so it would be a little difficult as the ripple force was not suitable for instantaneous output of force. Suddenly, Meng Chao delivered his punch onto the gauge, and as his fist connected, the numbers moved past 120 kilograms and 150 kilograms. As Meng Chao finished his punch, the gauge displayed that his punching strength was 218 kilograms. One of their classmates wondered if Meng Chao was even human because, without a single sign, he recovered to the point of being so powerful, and he did not even give them time to prepare themselves mentally for that, so he was terrifying. Wang Tao added that he originally thought their ace student Wu and study God Zhao were the elites of their class 6 in the world of pretending to be weak, but that day, he finally understood the principle that there was always someone better than you, and another classmate cheered, saying that their strongest from last year had returned. Meanwhile, Meng Chao was thinking that, with so much effort, the maximum punching force was only at the level of Mike Tyson, the boxing king of Earth, and he thought that it was too weak. Meng Chao told Chu Feixiong that he did not lie to him as he was seriously not good at reckless bull force, and the punches he threw with ripple force were really weak, so they didn't have any strength at all. But Chu Feixiong got enraged, so he requested that Wang Wangjun go out for 5 minutes because he wanted to hit Meng Chao, and their other classmates said that they wanted to hit Meng Chao as well.